I really like to put the focus on what's going on in the world and making the world a better place. But that's really where I got the idea to write the book. The book for me was about trying to give a voice to the people who were the silent majority that felt that they were being muzzled and censored.
Melinda Richards, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm really excited to be here, actually.
You're very welcome. We'll start it off right with a cheers. So
cheers.
You've got the cheers. There we go. You've got the first red wine on the podcast.
Know.
So
I just had to have a drink with you this afternoon. So
I'm sticking with the good gear. So no, I do. That's I love a good peppery red when I'm having a cigar.
Actually, that is really a beautiful wine. Thank you for choosing that over and above the crappy one that I bought today in a rush. So.
Well, look, I don't really drink any more other than maybe a drink here and there.
Yeah.
Other than when I'm doing the show.
Yes.
And the last one, for anybody that watched that, was we got a bit loose.
Oh, that's fun though. That's the way you should do a show.
It doesn't happen very often, so got to cut loose every now and then.
The afternoon is still young. So.
This is true. No, but I won't. I probably won't do that as a regular thing. It was a little bit secondhand the next day. I definitely don't bounce back like I used to.
Yeah, we're not 25 anymore, unfortunately.
No, but you ask him. I was 18 and we were out in the valley and stuff like that, and it'd hit 10:30, and I'd be the one going, "Come on, man, let's go."
Yeah.
I've never been a big partier.
Yep.
But anyway. That got off topic real quick. Anyway.
No, that's okay, because I could talk about partying on it, but no, that's off topic. And boy, there's some topics sitting around the world at the moment.
There are. And I first came across your profile on Twitter, X.
Yes.
Which is very new to me. I think we have about 3 followers.
Yep. Well, that'll change. That'll change very soon.
Well, hopefully.
Yes.
But you we first spoke after I had organised to have Pauline Hanson on.
Yes.
Because I wanted, I'm interested in talking to anybody that, I find interesting, or, the person or the brand or the topic or whatever. And you were, in a lot of your comments and posts, you're not backwards in coming forwards either.
No.
So, and for the ones that are watching, there's a book there in front of the beers. So you've written a book.
Yes.
So before I go too far off an introduction for you, why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown as to you and what it is that you do?
Okay. I'll try not to ramble on myself too much because I really like to put the focus on what's going on in the world and making the world a better place. And I'm just a fairly small part in that, but that's really where I got the idea to write the book, because this is about trying to, I'm not going to lie. It's about trying to save Western civilization. We are under attack. People, if I'd said that 5 years ago, people would have looked at me and just laughed and thought I was ridiculous, or 6 years ago now.
Yep.
But of course, these days when I say it, people are like, yes, we are. So you see, even the awakening that's happened since I started writing the book in around about 2018 to now has been extraordinary. And all of us would like to think that we could leave the world a better place than when we arrived. So the book for me was about trying to give a voice to the people who were the silent majority that felt that they were being muzzled and censored, particularly white men around the world. That was really where I started from. But now, of course, it's a lot of other white people as well. It's white women, and children are obviously needing a lot more protection than even I realised. When I started writing the book, I didn't understand a lot of the layers of what was going on in the world, which I do now. So it's been a very enlightening experience.
Yeah.
But the thing about the book is saying to everybody, and it's called You Can't Say That. And
it's a great title.
Because every time I would talk to someone in the 10 years previously, and it was at least a decade of it, people would say to me, "Oh, Melinda, you can't say that anymore." And I'm like, why can't you say that? Why not? We live in a free country. Your opinion matters just as much as anybody else's. And really the reason for the book was, please, everybody, lose the fear of speaking out. It is up to every single one of us to have a voice. And the book was about saying, I did it. I've put myself out there. It's been a very interesting experience. Mostly it's been a very good experience. But I will tell you, the sort of at the start of it, particularly when 2020 hit, I mean, there are a lot of stories, and none of them are really great for that 2.5 year period. But when you actually get right down to it by putting the book out, meeting amazing people like yourself, meeting a lot of people who were silent but are now starting to speak out, it was all worth it. It's all worth it because we are now at a position, and we can see it happening all over the world, and particularly in America. Americans have decided, hey, we're taking our country back, and good on them. I mean, it's actually beyond Trump now. I mean, Trump is a symbol. I mean, I think people get so hung up on Trump as a person, but what this is a great awakening of Western civilization and the core values that mean something to us in the West that we want to hold on to. And it's beyond just one person. It's all of us now.
Yeah, I mean, Trump was a catalyst.
Yeah.
You know, he was a train that people could ride on, you know, and I think there's a lot of the stuff that he said that I think gave people
hope.
Hope, but also, you know, a bit of confidence to maybe open their own mouths.
Absolutely. And this is the key point for, you know, all of your listeners and, you know, the people that I've spoken to in the last sort of 7 or 8 years during this journey, is that you have been muzzled, you have been self-censoring, and sometimes you realise you're doing it, and sometimes you don't even realise you're doing it until you get that aha moment, until you lose that fear, and then you go, hey, listen, I've actually got a voice, and I'm going to use it, and guess what happens when everyone uses their voice? People power makes a difference.
It does, and I mean, there's probably, you know, a great percentage of people out there that were. I mean, I've never been muzzled. I wouldn't want to be the one telling me to shut up.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I've never not. You know, we've said it a few times. Never been fucking accused of being woke down here.
Yeah.
We did that through COVID. I never shut a single day, and we never had masks down here.
Fantastic.
The only thing that we had was a couple of times I got pulled up and refused entry to a couple of places, and it wasn't somewhere that, you know, I couldn't not go. It was like Coles or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Don't sue me. It could have been Woolworths. I don't know. Whatever grocery store I was at.
Yeah.
Jumped up and down about me not having a mask. And so there was a couple of times that I did wear one just to go and get some stuff.
Yeah.
We held off. I'm going to say it was a good year and a half, something like that, of not getting the jab. You know, we got refused entry up at Eaton's Hill here and a few other places a couple of times. You're like,
I got so many stories of that period. I mean, we could do a whole show just on bad stories for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
A whole show on it. And that was because people in Australia decided they were going to conform.
Well, yeah, look, I finally did. I've said this story on here a couple of times for anybody that's heard it, sorry. But I'd held off. And someone at one point said, you know, if your kids ever are in hospital and you haven't got the jab, they won't let you go see them. And that made me go, fuck, all right, okay, well, all right, you win. Like, because it wasn't just COVID. Like, I don't get flu shots.
Yeah.
I don't get anything. I went some God only knows how long amount of time without a second tetanus shot.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't take a lot of antibiotics and stuff. Like I'll get cuts and I'm like, you know, they're a bit sore for a while, but they'll sort themselves out. Like I don't really get, because I kind of figure the more I cotton wool my body, the more my body's going to need cotton wooling.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, get sick, sweet, or get hurt, whatever. You know, I'm not gonna not go to the doctors if I break a bone, but you know, for the most part, I'll steer clear of pretty much any of that stuff.
So that would have been particularly difficult for you.
It was, yeah, I was not happy about it, but it's like that thing, you know, you parent and then things change when you have a kid and you're like, my whole ability to tell the world to nick off stops dead as soon as there's something to do with the kids. You're like, okay, all right, fine, I'll go do it. So
look, I mean, it's not even about government control for me. To start out with, it was because governments, if you know history and you pick up a history book, you can go back thousands of years and look at tyranny and revolutions and royalty and all sorts of governments that have come and gone, the Roman Empire, you know, democracy starting in Greece and coming and going, and, you know, then you had all these swerves in society, Cultural Revolution in China, you obviously had the Bolshevik Revolution, you know, and you can go back and look at all the people that created it and caused it, and there's a whole layer of stuff around that. And that's another show in itself, is that how did history actually play out? Who's controlling history and who's controlling the monetary system and why are things happening? And that's what everyone's discussing now, and that's what people are awakening to. But the fundamental point for Australia, though, I think, was the fact that Australia thought it was a country of one thing. And it just isn't. Australians are not who they thought they were. And that has been a slow burn over around about 20 to 30 years that many Australians haven't really noticed, because it's like death by 1,000 cuts. And then all of a sudden you get that final stab in the heart where you actually do die and you open your eyes and realise, and that was in 2020. We were already cut and bleeding by the time we were lying on the table. And the knife came down and it was like complete and utter tyranny, totalitarianism. The government, it was basically exactly the same as any other tyrannical government throughout history. So Australia is not the country that we thought we were. It's certainly not the country that I grew up in. I was a child of the 70s and a teenager of the 80s. And so I really feel that I am old enough to make these comments now, which is why I started writing the book when I turned 50, because I felt that I'd had enough life experience under my belt, and I've lived a huge life, that I could actually start making some fairly informed comments and put forward some opinions that have some merit. And one of my strong opinions is that we are not the country that we wanted to be, and that our original post-war generations were trying to build. We are very different. We are now, I believe, we're a socialist country. We have lost the ability to tell our government to do our bidding for us, which is what is the original idea, is that we pay taxes to a central body to say, could you please on our behalf be an agent for that money and just build some good infrastructure. Let's build some train lines. Let's build some national roads. Let's make sure we have some healthcare that everyone can access. And we want to educate our kids. Oh, and by the way, we want to look after those people that can't look after themselves, the mentally ill, the infirm, the elderly. And that's about it.
Yeah.
That's really about it. That's what our government should pretty much be ring-fenced to do. But in Australia now, we've flipped that 180 degrees, and the government now tells the Australian citizens what's going to happen, what we will do, what legislation is going to be put in, whether we like it or not. And that has been proven time and time again over the last 30 years. We have lost control of our government. We've lost control of our freedom. And we have to have a swerve in our society. Now, America's going through that right now. They are going through what's probably going to be seen in history as a bit of a revolution, because they're kind of throwing out the bathwater, and whether the baby goes with it will be very interesting to see. But at the end of the day, within a month, Donald Trump has saved, and he's probably looking at trillions of dollars.
Oh, yeah, that was always the thing for him, though. He's a businessman. He's going to run that country like a business.
But that trillions of dollars has massive implications to the social construct, to your society, and to your value system, and to whose values are really driving you. And that's the big awakening, because many decent people in the West, and I'm talking particularly the Five Eyes countries, English-speaking countries, are now starting to say, particularly in the last 12 months, we're done. We've had enough. We need to protect our women and children. The woke narrative has to get kicked out of the park. It's a toxic cancer in our society. And what it's created is it's created a sort of a divisive, unsafe society, but it's also created a lot of massive economic problems, because we have people in Australia like pigs at the trough, exactly like America. It's happened in the UK. I mean, we know this is happening. And so you've got to pick up the whole lot, shake it around. And I can tell you now, Australia's a little bit far behind America. I don't know how many years it'll take us to catch up, but we need to, because a lot of Australians want to get their country back, you know?
Yeah, I think one of the hard parts with that as a topic, as far as how, you know, lost and off path we, in retrospect, were and are, but were especially, I think there's a little bit of credit's got to be given to the Australian people for just going fuck it and keep pushing. You know, like it might not be where we wanted it, it might not be where it should be, but you know, we just keep getting up, keep going to work, keep doing everything, and it was only really when I mean, woke covers a lot of stuff, but it was only, I think, what was the first one? That was GST, wasn't it? That was supposed to be the government's answer. It was GST and nothing else.
Yeah, and that never happened.
No.
And you see, the tax, you know, I mean, I pay an extraordinary amount of tax, and my family has over generations. So the problem that I've got as an individual, and then the problem that Australia's got as a country, is that because we've lost control of our government, because our government is dictating to us, we are virtually getting, you know, tax is virtually theft now. I mean, it's basically taking our money that we work for and that we're happy to agree to give to the government under an agreement that you guys do what we want because you're there on our behest, because we're paying you. We're paying you.
Well, that's the thing. They're getting more money out of us than they ever have before.
And we're getting less and less and less outcomes. And what's happening too is that when you add all this government control and when you add all this legislation into the mix, you need to add all the public servants into the mix to actually administer it all. And then you're just growing this beast to the point now where that's one of the key reasons why we can't control it, because it's a behemoth. Yeah. And you have so many people in the population that are now reliant on the government for their income.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you're reliant on the government, let's face it, you're easy to control because the government's like, well, you work for us now, guys. Yeah. Sorry. I mean, you know, we're going to increase our power by increasing the public servants. And I got to tell you, the senior public servants in this country are definitely some of the most powerful people in this country.
Yeah, I don't quite understand, or even after having Pauline Hanson on, it was there's so many layers to it and how all that works. And I think one of the parts where she was explaining how there can be an option that someone brings up that's a really good option, and the opposition won't agree with it on the fact that it's their competition that said it, not based on the fact that it would have been good for the country.
Because this is about power, and everything in the public service is also about power. So power has taken over because they've become powerful. So when they become powerful, they want more power. And then that power is wielded, and they wield it on each other. So you see, the country is being left behind, the taxpayers are being left behind, and the people that need the money the most in this country, which is where I want my money to go, to the causes and the people that actually would benefit from it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really they're living as second-class citizens. We've got poverty, we've got homelessness, we've got, you know, we have layers and layers of problems, and you could cherry pick each problem like the media do. And they go, well, today we're going to talk about, you know, the housing crisis, and tomorrow we're going to talk about youth crime crisis, and next day we're going to talk about the energy crisis. And you can actually cycle your media news each week on the cherry-picked crisis, where nobody has got the picture of the jigsaw and has put all of it together and is saying, this is a crisis of power, construct, and leadership. And when you address it, and you're going to have to do something like what Trump's doing. I'm sorry, it's going to have to, because it's so big and it's so ugly. We're going to need kind of like a bit of a revolution ourselves, because at the end of the day, when you address the core toxic cancer of power where it's left the people and it's gone to the government, once you address that, you lower government spending, you lower taxes, you pick up the economy, you lower inflation, you do all of that sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden, sorry, I didn't turn my phone off. I thought I did. That's my bad.
At least it wasn't
my
me.
My bad.
That's all good.
But yeah, you actually start to have hope, because what you're doing is you're kickstarting an economy, because you're taking out the government, because the government is a core part of why the economy in Australia has gone awry. I believe we are in recession right now. It's a core reason why inflation just will not be pulled back, because of the government spending and printing money are the two things that create inflation. And it started with shutting your economy down in 2020. Because the government printed more money, I think, in the last 3 years than they've printed in the whole of Australia's history. So in other words, it's something like that. Lachlan Lade at the Libertarian Party, he's a Libertarian Party candidate. If you're on X, follow Lachlan Lade and Jim Wilmot. Those two men absolutely know what they're talking about, and they will come out with really, really great facts and figures about energy, about the economy, about inflation. And this is the sort of thing that is inflationary. Now, if anyone believes the inflation figures right now, they're living on another planet, because when you go to the shops in Australia, where you go to the grocery store, you go to the liquor store, go and get anything, go and try and buy something, go to the fuel station, tell me that inflation is running at, well, it's at 3.8% right now. It's not. It's absolutely not. Australians can't afford to pay their electricity bills right now. A lot of people are hurting. So you see, once you take the government out, you get that under control, and you take back your country.
Yeah.
And you pull it apart, and you might have to change your constitution. You might have to change the way we've got a two-party preferred system here with preferential voting. I mean, this is all a big fat problem for us right now, because there's no difference, hardly at all, between the two parties. So once you do all of that, we have hope to come back and bring back a society that's run by the actual people, and you have people in charge, like are being appointed around the world, who are more on the conservative right side of politics, that have had a life, and they're going in and going, I love my country.
Yeah.
And I'm going to come in and save it. If we can do that in Australia, it would be amazing, and it would be amazing to be part of that kind of movement, I think.
Oh, absolutely. We can't. So in Australia, though, because of the way our government is set up, we can't have. So, like, Donald Trump wasn't anything to do with politics until he went, fuck it, I'm going to be president. Yeah. We can't do that here, can we? We can't have just Joe Bloggs go, you know what, this is like Mark, I want to say Boris?
Boris Johnson.
No.
Oh.
Mark, I can't even think of his name. Do a Google, his name's Mark. Mark had, I want to say Boris, but it's probably wrong. He had the Australian Apprentice, like Trumpy had.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
What's his last name?
Yeah,
I'm stuck too. Just Google it. We'll never. I want to say Boris, but whatever.
Yeah, but I know who you're talking about. I can sort of
so could
see his
he
face.
just rock up and go,
no,
you know what, this place is retarded. I'm going to have a crack at running it.
No.
See, that, and because our Prime Minister, the individual role, doesn't have the power like the President does for their government. It's
just more how the Prime Minister of this country gets elected. And that's that. It's the way that where our election process is set up versus America. So, but they still have a fairly convoluted system themselves. It's not that easy to understand. But the thing about the US is that they had the movement from the ground up. So when Donald Trump said to the American people, we can't put up with this anymore, the corruption in this government runs so deep. I mean, the Clintons. I mean, I can't say anything about the Clintons because I'm scared of them. I mean, everyone should be scared of the Clintons. Everyone should be scared of the people that are... Yeah, because they're dangerous people. These are all very dangerous people who are running the US. And at the end of the day, Trump knew what was going on because he was part of that establishment. He hung around the circles and saw what was going on, listened to it, and his love for his country overrode his need to go sip cocktails in the Caribbean and retire. He decided, you know what, I'm not going to sit on my yacht in the Mediterranean. I love my country. It's going downhill. Enough's enough. It started, I think, for him, the Obama presidency was just such a disaster that Donald Trump was like, I can't. He's a doer. I mean, he's a big personality. He doesn't drink. He just works and loves.
Eats a lot of McDonald's, apparently.
Eats a lot of McDonald's, works, loves, plays hard, but he's not. And he decided, I love America and I'm going to make America great again. And he just kind of made this thing about MAGA.
Yeah.
So that became bigger than Donald Trump because it became a movement of the people.
Yeah.
And you see, we don't have that in Australia at the moment because libertarians in Australia and people in Australia that are free. That's
right.
Him. Yes, you were right.
Did I say Boris?
No, you said Mark. It's Boris.
Boris. Well, anyway, my point for him was, because he's like our Trump, Pauline's a bit like our Trump, but as far as, business mogul and all that and charismatic and all that gear, my concept was like, could someone like that go, all right, we're going to have a crack at this and fix it, not start at a local government level and work up? Can they just come in at the top job?
It will have to be a movement from the people the way that it was in America.
Yeah.
And that would also probably mean in Australia some sort of electoral change somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
If you actually have a look at our choices, at the next election, whether you like it or I like it or not, we have out of our hands, we have two choices. We have Anthony Albanese, the worst prime minister this country has ever seen, a total embarrassment, a hypocrite, and, has spent his life sucking taxpayer dollars to become a multimillionaire, like in true communist style. I mean, let's face it, all of the high communist priests of the Cold War all had their dakas and all their beautiful homes, and they lived like kings. Now Anthony Albanese is exactly that. He's all about socialism and communism, as long as I don't have to do that. And he's made a career of that. He's made a career of being on the public purse and lecturing, and he's now coming to the point where, as Prime Minister, he is such an elitist twat that he will actually lecture people out there on how to live, what they should be doing. And this is the thing about politicians do in Australia now. They stand up and they talk to Australian people like we're 4-year-olds, and they lecture us and they patronise us and they think that we're stupid. And that's been a trend now for about 20 years in Australia, and it's awful. But some Australians really buy into that. They really, really love being told what to do. I mean, we cannot get away from that fact that there is a large percentage of Australians now that have grown up being told what to do intergenerationally, and they love it. And that means they don't have to think for themselves, and that's what's taken us down this path. Now, we have Anthony or we have Peter Dutton. And, if you went out in the street and did a snap poll right now to your listeners and the people that are interested in what you've got to say and possibly what I've got to say, not one person will go, oh, that's a great choice. Oh, I love those two. This is hard because these guys are so good. Boy, it's going to be hard to make a decision between Labor and Liberal this time, because look at the great stuff that the Liberal Party's doing, and look at the wonderful things that the Labor Party's delivered for the country. No, it's the opposite to that.
Is Bob Hawke still kicking?
Unfortunately, he's gone.
Is he?
He's gone.
He was awesome.
Well, he was better than what we've got now.
Well,
that's saying something.
I was too young to know much about what he was doing while he was doing it, but
I had to study economics while he was Prime Minister, so
okay.
I'm probably showing my age now. I'm a bit older than you are. I was doing Year 12 economics in 1985, and part of what we had to study was the Hawke-Keating economic policy of the day.
Because wasn't that like what? And I'm paraphrasing knowledge and conversations from years gone by, but wasn't that like one of the best for economy, for management, for everything? Was those two? Because Keating ran the
Treasury,
and it's like anything that I've ever heard about back then. I mean, people will say stuff like, Bob Hawke was a this or that or whatever in his personal life, whatever, but that was like a pretty good setup. And I found a video on him years ago, and he's telling a joke on stage and he's dropping F-bombs, and I was like, that's an Aussie.
Well, because that's the Australia that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, that we want and had.
And the Prime Minister of the day often, and this is really sad because of who we have now as Prime Minister, but often represents the cultural nuances and the value system of a country. I mean, when you see someone kind of reflecting their values onto you, and you reflecting onto the people that you vote for, and that you have some choices, and Bob Hawke was the Prime Minister of the day. Look, he was a pants man. I've heard some, but it's like Trump. It's like, well, I'm not married to Bob Hawke, and I'm not married to Donald Trump, and I'm not married to... No one cares. And they talk about the female vote and women voting. Now, if you're a woman and you don't vote for someone because some guy, has affairs and is a bit of a pants man, but he's actually brilliant at delivering outcomes and economic policy, I mean, you're not married to him. What do you care? I mean, what do you care that this person does in their private life? No one cares.
Yeah. I get the public knowledge of it though, and it's setting a bad standard or precedent or whatever. Like I get.
But men have affairs. I mean, I'm sorry to say, I love men, but boys, come on. Like, let's face it. I think the statistic is something like, is it 80% of married men have affairs at least once or something? There's some stat rolling around that I read, years and years ago. Now, whether that's true or not, but the thing is, it's a human experience. People who are leaders of countries are human beings. And and it's the human experience that gets exposed that they own up to. Like when Bob Hawke's daughter was, she was a drug addict, and he sat in front of the television cameras and actually had tears in his eyes and talked about his daughter. Well, any father with a daughter who was on drugs and it got found out, and he's a public figure and he's emotional, and he showed that kind of, I'm thinking, well, he's a human being.
Absolutely.
You know what? But when you look at someone like Anthony Albanese, he is basically a veneer. There's no humanness about Anthony. Everything that he says that comes out of his mouth is either a lie, it's incorrect, or it's staged. And he is not the person that he says he is. He's not even anywhere near the person that he puts out in public. His humanness has been shadowed and it has been pushed back, because if people, I think, really saw the true side of people like Anthony Albanese, Julia Gillard, Kevin Rudd. I mean, these people, when you listen to the people that have to work with them, when you hear the people and what they say about these, there's not that lot of deep, I guess, they're not real because they don't come across as real. And the reason why and that's patronising to the Australian public, because people want to see the human being. Yeah, Donald Trump's flawed. Yep, we all know what they are, because the media went after him for a decade. So pretty much every single piece of dirt that could have got dug up about that man, lies as well. I mean, all the stuff around the Russia stuff, I mean, all the FBI stuff, the January the 6th stuff, all of that being shot at, all of the take you to court, impeach you, they were so desperate to stop him from being president because he was going to do what he's doing now. They were so desperate. It all got laid out, and yet he won by a landslide. Because people don't care. People just don't care. They go, yeah, well, my granddad did that, or I remember my father saying the same thing. People can relate to human beings, flawed and all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yet you look at Anthony Albanese. Tell me a deep and meaningful moment of truth and connection to the Australian people that our Prime Minister has had in his Prime Ministership. I can't see it. I've never seen it.
I don't pay close enough attention to be able to pick one out. I see there was one he did the other day talking to the cameras about I'm going to paraphrase this as well because I'll fuck it up, but it was something like he was talking about everybody gets onto the social medias and they write things that they'd never say in your face, and everybody needs to calm down and blah, blah, blah. And I commented on it something like, well, if you did your fucking job, they wouldn't have something to whinge about, and I'll tell it to your face.
Yeah.
Not going to get anything from that because it's, it's social media stuff, and he'd probably just turn around and spin it and go, well, see, this is what we're talking about. But
Anthony Albanese's attitude towards being criticised and memes and the hurty words that he can't handle because he doesn't have that depth of character.
Yeah.
And he's had that free ride all the way to the top, and he's never really had to be held accountable for anything. And he's finding as Prime Minister that he is actually starting to be held accountable by the Australian people. The Voice was a classic example. 60% of Australians are like you and I. That's the majority. That's the silent majority that didn't stay silent and said we're over it. And that was the turning point for what I'm saying is sort of the great awakening happening in Australia.
Yeah.
And Anthony Albanese is terrible at reading the room. He's on the wrong side of history. And he still, to this day, doesn't have any idea why people think and feel the way he does, because he lacks empathy. He lacks, I guess, a connection to the working person because he's never really had to do that in his life. He certainly doesn't know anything about business. And what's happening now is that he's suddenly realising that actually with the Prime Ministership, Mr. Albanese, comes just a little bit of accountability. And even the mainstream media, who are very left-leaning and have been
bought and paid for.
Yeah, bought and paid for, left-leaning, owned by the people that own the world. Even some commentators, not very many, but some are coming out and going, well, look, even I can't ignore the fact that you are doing a terrible job. It's just terrible. And it's not just terrible economically. Socially, there's this kind of embracing of this divisive woke narrative that actually divides us as a country and doesn't unite us. and he's been a flag flyer for division socially. And look, environmentally, don't even get me started on the environmental destruction that's happening out there with the wind turbines and the solar panels and the renewable energy climate sham, which is just a money grift where the money doesn't even stay in Australia anyway. And we could do a whole show on that one day as well. But at the end of the day, it's all of this fantasy and this patronising kind of platitude politics that we get from Anthony Albanese that he can't defend anymore. Yeah. And that's why he'll lose the election. Unless, of course, people feel that the communist Greens have still got some sort of place in our political landscape, which I would strongly hope that Australians are not just waking up to the personalities around the Labor government and the Liberal Party to a certain extent, but also to the toxic Greens movement and the Teals who play platitude politics to the greatest extent. And the people that vote for them are just the people that go, I'm going to vote for them so I can feel really great about myself.
Yeah.
Because I can take a big hairy platitude and just kind of roll it out and then I look great. I can put it on Facebook even and go, well, I'm voting for the environment. Well, actually, you're voting against the environment because the Greens at the moment are one of the most destructive parties for the natural flora and fauna and natural ecosystem in Australia's history. Right now, they are the single most destructive element that is happening in our country. We are seeing swathes of land be destroyed. We are seeing flora and fauna being destroyed by the rollout of so-called, what we call now, unrenewable energy.
Yeah.
And in 10 years' time, we're all going to look back, or 20 years' time, we're going to be tearing it all down going, well, how did we let that happen again? Where did that start again? It's like, well, let's follow the money, like you have to do for everything. Got to follow the money.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not we spoke about this, Pauline, and we spoke about it a few times. Like the wind turbines are a joke. Like you can't do anything with them when they're done. The servicing on them's enormous. They're as ugly as all hell, and it's like
They destroy the environment. They actually destroy it. They create environmental deserts. And what people need to get their heads around is that when you don't live and see them every day and you're not watching the swathes of land getting destroyed, it's very, very hard to get your head around how bad it is.
What is it that it's doing to the land, though?
So what happens is you can't live near them, and all of the animals sort of leave the area and it kills the birds in the area. So you actually start to take out parts of the ecosystem where you then suddenly don't have any life.
So why don't they just fill the centre of Australia with it, where it's all desert and sand and wind?
But even the centre of Australia has an ecosystem, you know. And then what people don't understand is that it's all very well to put the wind turbines there. You need another completely new distribution network over and above the distribution network that you have now to get all of the power back into the cities.
Yeah, that's true.
So the distribution network
anyway.
has never been factored into the discussions that Chris Bowen ever has with anyone in the Australian public. And Chris Bowen's getting exposed on this now, and he doesn't have the answers. And, if we're talking about two people that cannot answer a question and cannot be and need to be held accountable in Canberra right now, it's Anthony Albanese and Chris Bowen, because they cannot justify and answer and put on the table the benefits. I mean, I loved the whole last election. It's like, we're going to take $285 off your electricity bill. And I'm like, well, how are you going to do that? I mean, immediately, as soon as that came out of Anthony Albanese's mouth, I thought there's nobody in Australia that's going to believe that. No one's going to vote for you on that. People did, though. And then their electricity bill went up by about 100%.
Yeah.
So it didn't. Not only did he not deliver anything that he said he would, it actually doubled for most people. I remember about 6 months after that statement, I got my first electricity bill in the mail and I went, oh my God. Now the Greens are a major part of that, and they are hooked into Labor. And you'll see when you look at geopolitics, you will see how compromised our Prime Minister really is.
Right.
Because when you watch how he behaves when things are happening overseas, he has to temper everything, and he has to watch his P's and Q's, and he has to, sit on the fence for a lot of stuff and place, say this and then say that and make a lot of empty platitudes that really mean nothing because he's placating the Greens, because he knows he needs them.
But why does he need them if they're...
Because they give each other preferences.
Yeah, right. See, that's just such a fucking...
So it's about the system of people are getting in bed with everyone, and the Teals did a really great marketing campaign. It's a pretty colour. It's like that aqua sitting over there. It's pretty. It's my favourite colour. The Teals, great brand. All the women look the same. Oh, we're middle-aged women and we care about the environment. We care about the... And it's like you don't know what you're talking about.
I wish I'd just go back to when the Greens would just hug a tree and, be quiet about it.
Well, I'm pretty sure Bob Brown doesn't like where the Greens have gone.
I think my understanding is that it's like everything that they were originally started to do, they're just not doing anymore.
Well...
Or it's on a back burner.
Well, the problem is the Greens have hooked their wagon up to the net zero bullshit, which is bullshit, and you can't have net zero. The climate sham is a climate sham. I really encourage everyone to watch a movie called AI Al Gore. That will expose the sort of ground zero moment in the early 90s when Al Gore came out and decided to make his fortune on a climate grift. Yeah. And, if anyone, it's the environment we need to look after. The climate, we have no impact on the climate. I mean, I think a volcano erupted the other day, so there's your there's your 10 years worth of human activity up in maybe an hour that blasts into the air. It's a joke, it's wrong, it's a sham, and it's a cult. And you take the same climate cult and you look at the same people with Ukrainian flags in their profile and drips in their profile, and I'm vaccinated in their profile with their happy little faces, and they're the ones out on the streets with their nice clothes and their sunglasses and their mobile phones filming themselves on a climate protest. It's like, are you serious?
Yeah, but that's a lot of the modern times of people wanting attention, and I don't think it's ever been any different in some regards, because you've always had what does Rogan call it? Everybody wants to be part of a team.
Oh, look, I get that, and I understand it, and I understand a lot about kind of human behaviour and psychology since researching for the book as well, and since the book was released and campaigning, I've really delved into that. I had a little bit of experience prior to it, but I get that. But
just need people to think a bit harder about what they're joining.
Well, when you get global cults where people then can't answer a question when someone asks you a question about it, that's when I really draw the line. So if someone comes up to, say, a college student in America who's wearing a keffiyeh and, she's a white girl, she's got the Palestinian scarf around her neck and she's screaming Free Palestine, and she's at like a major American university, and then a guy comes up, says, hey, I'm doing a podcast, just ask you a couple of questions here. When they can't express themselves, when they can't understand the real politics behind it, when they don't understand how maybe women are treated in the part of the world that they've never been to, they don't understand, when they don't understand the history of the region, when they are not quite sure about who Hamas is and who's running the show and then who Netanyahu is, like when you don't know anything, I'm just saying I kind of get a little bit, do you know what, maybe you just need to quickly take that off, quickly go home, do a bit of a Google search, maybe go to the library. If you're going to go out and put yourself out there in front of 50 mobile phones and everyone's going to post you on social media, and because let's face it, when you protest these days, you're everywhere and people pick up on it, then just be able to answer a question, any question. Like, let's talk about climate.
Yeah, what you're saying is that if you're going to latch onto something, is understand what you're latching onto.
Well, that's my big issue right now with, and climate's the same for me. People go up to people who are gluing themselves to roads and literally stopping traffic in the UK. It's like, oh, hey, can you? We're destroying the planet. Well, what facts and figures and what are the things that you can actually put in front of people that demonstrate that clearly, because that is up for debate. And there are a lot of scientists who totally disagree with you, and they're qualified to disagree. So maybe what you need to do is quickly just have a look at maybe both sides of the argument. Don't just jump on something because you want to be part of the team. I want to be part of the Saving the Planet team. Well, that sounds great, but you look foolish. You don't look like you should be you need to go back and just...
I think there's a narrative that's been getting more and more and more over the years of that team mentality, and it's like every time you add a person to a group, the overall IQ average drops.
That's
Do you know what I mean?
exactly right.
It is. It's fucking retarded. But they feed each other, and when you're in that closed group and it's no outside influence, it just gets more compacted and more dig their heels in.
Well, take a look at 2020. What you've just described is March 2020.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. That was like, okay, everyone, we're going to lock you down. Well, wait a second. But what? Really? What for?
That's
let's
why
just quickly take a look at this for a second. I'm like, just let me, because I was ignoring it, because, I mean, I'm old enough to have lived through another 10 viruses previous to that.
Yeah.
I'd lived through SARS-CoV-1 or whatever it was. And I'm like, I might just quickly check this out, because I've never been told to be a prisoner in my own home before in a democratic country where I'm supposed to be free. Let me just quickly just spend just a couple of days, just ask a couple of questions. What was the first question I asked? How deadly is this virus?
Yep.
What's the recovery rate?
Yep.
That's question number one. Very easy to find.
Yeah, we spoke about that a few times. The American Medical Journal thing, there was a video very early, an old mate's camera, and he's flicking over and it goes down to COVID and it says common cold.
Yeah.
And you're like,
coronavirus.
We literally, or coronavirus, whatever it was, we literally did. I had about 3 seconds worth of looking into stuff, and I'm like, fuck, who cares?
And then someone said to me a few months later, oh, yes, but Melinda, I was sick for a whole week, and COVID's no laughing matter. You've got to understand that when you get COVID, and people have died from COVID, and you need to... I said, yeah, well, guess what? People have died from pneumonia, the flu, like influenza A, influenza B. I had a bad flu and was laid up for a week. I certainly wouldn't walk out of the house and go, right, shut the world down.
No, but the other part of it too that's come out a lot more now too is that it's like, okay, you got COVID and you had a rough time. Not you, but anybody. Oh, you got COVID and you had a rough time. Okay, cool. Well, and I mean, how fat are you? How healthy are you? What's your diet like?
Yeah, well,
do you know what I mean? It's not. It doesn't affect everybody the same. It's like, are you young? Are you old?
Yeah.
Have you got pre-existing issues? Yeah. There was something ages ago. They released something and it was like, I got to pick a number. Let's say there was whatever amount of stats, say 10,000 people in one area, whatever time, whatever, died of COVID. But there was things like people had car crashes and got tested and they called it a COVID death, and they crashed driving a car.
That happened all the time. And the reason why that happened in America is because they were subsidizing the hospitals. If you registered a COVID death, you got $26,000 per patient. Oh, quickly. And it wasn't until some families said no. That they didn't.
Wow, I didn't know.
Yeah, they were giving hospitals money to say, because they needed to keep it going, because they needed to get that substance in everyone's arm. And I knew about that in 2020 as well. But the point goes back to what you were saying earlier. The reason why we got onto that is because people were just like, okay,
yeah,
no worries. So because the second question I asked was, well, okay then, if that's my recovery rate, which at the time at 52 was 99.98%.
Yep.
My question was, well, why are we locking down then?
Yeah, exactly.
What are we doing that for? And then the third question I asked, which I thought was fairly basic, and people think, oh, well, we lost our ability to do critical thinking. It's like, this wasn't really critical thinking. I mean, this was just kind of like going, oh. And my third question was, if we can go to Coles and Woolworths and BWS and Liquorland and JB Hi-Fi to make sure all our tech's good while we're sitting at home, why does everyone else have to shut down and go into their homes? Because aren't I going out and into the supermarket where I'm seeing everyone and touching everything? And
yep.
So Oh, so sorry. Science says, because it's the science, the trust the science. As soon as I saw trust the science too, I was like, oh, really? You've got to say that? As soon as I knew that I could go into Woolworths and do my shopping, I was like, this is a sham.
Yeah.
This is a complete sham. And you know what I said to my husband? Oh, everyone will work that out. This was like day 2. I said, oh, look, don't worry about it, mate, because they're letting everyone go. This will be over in a week.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to sit at home and then go, well, hold on a minute. I just went to BWS to get my beers, and there was 50,000 people in there getting their beers as well. So this is a joke. So I'm not doing this anymore. I said this will be gone in a week because people will just wake up like that, and they'll know with the 99.98% recovery rate, the fact that we can go here, we can. I mean, and the fact that doctors in the UK said, well, that doesn't stop a virus, by the way. If you lock people away, it doesn't do anything, just so you know. Like doctors were, before they got censored, and of course that was my 4th question. Why are people getting censored? Because it was turning into an ideology and it had nothing to do with medicine. So it became the new cause, the new team that you were talking about. It was the team. Instead of Team Climate and Team Ukraine, we were now Team COVID. And honestly, when you talk earlier about, everyone wants to be part of a team, oh my God, everyone wanted to be part of the COVID team because let's face it, if you're going to be sitting at home in your Jimmy Jams watching Netflix, that's a lot of fun. You don't have to go to work. You get paid to do it. They're printing money. You know, are you kidding me? I don't have to get up and go to work. I'll buy into the COVID stuff. That's cool. I mean, we have to also come to terms with the fact that, we're sitting in this economic mess right now and this health mess because a lot of Australians were like, I'm happy to sit at home.
I would go out of my fucking mind. Can't do it. I can't do it. I'm like, I stir crazy.
I didn't. I just didn't.
Yeah.
But I couldn't have, even if I wanted to.
Yeah.
I couldn't have. So I'm with you. But I think it woke me up to the fact that there is a subculture in Australia that is obedient, likes being controlled, and is maybe a little bit lazy. It was kind of like, this is great. I've got to work.
Look, I mean,
I hate to say it because, there were people that were genuinely scared, that genuinely believed what the media were telling them. But I'm sorry, there is a little tiny part of Australian society, a percentage, a proportion, I don't know how much, but they were like, this is cool. Because I had a few people tell me, I don't care that I don't have to do the school run. This is great. Are you kidding me? And I said, and I needed a break. I was busy. I really needed a break. And I'm like, this is not the way to take a break.
No.
We're crashing our work. Like, people are losing their businesses, their careers, their lives, things they've worked for. This is not the way to, that's selfish. Come on, guys. We need to open up. We need to stop. But you see, I suppose, it's that team. We're all the COVID team. Yeah.
But it's the same thing. You have, like we were talking about it earlier, like, people are idiots. A person.
Well, I wasn't going to go that far.
A person is smart. I think if you
had the collective,
people in general are team-based. They want to follow. There's maybe, I'm going to pull a number out of the air, 1 in 1,000 that are happy to stand out and go their own way in whatever that is. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. But for the most part, people just want to follow. Keep everything all copacetic. Get on with the day. They get told to do something. For the most part, they'll do it.
Yeah.
But coming out the other side of that and looking back on it, I think the biggest drama is that was not a big deal. That was not something we should have been scared of, and it's not something you should have shut down the country for.
Well,
but if something happens next, and it is, most people probably won't listen.
Hopefully not.
Well, but this is the problem. It's a good and a bad. It's like we learnt from that, like we shouldn't have listened. But now if something comes up that is an actual problem, most people are going to go, well, what is this, like COVID? Well, I'm not listening to that.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying because, of course, Bill Gates has been talking about the next pandemic for quite some time, and of course, a few other people during the Democratic era of Biden were, coming out and talking about the next pandemic because it's an important part of the strategy of global control. It's a very important part. If you actually have a look at what COVID, the information that provided people at the top
Oh, yeah.
about human behaviour, about compliance, they were thrilled. COVID actually worked. But what I think didn't work for them is that when they released it, and the CIA now admits that it was released. I mean, who believed it was? That was the other question I asked. I mean, really, how did this get released? There's a lab in Wuhan. I mean, it took me half an hour to find out about a lab in Wuhan. It took me about another hour and a half to see the photo of Obama and Fauci in the lab in Wuhan in like 2008 or 2009. I mean, this is not stuff that's, I'm a tech idiot. If I can find all this information within hours, it's all there available for doctors and lawyers and scientists, and a lot of people did find it. But I mean, if you know, me, who's just Joe Blow, who doesn't know anything about anything, can just get information this quickly. And the thing was, that wasn't real. No one was eating a bat kebab when it was released. Do you know what I mean? It's like, of course it was released from the lab. It was done deliberately. And then I found the video a few hours later after that. You know, as I said, I spent 24 hours sort of diving around a little bit of them doing the little simulation. They're all in the room. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Bill Gates is there. They've got the video and, here's how the virus will spread quickly. And that was September 2019, I think that video was made.
Yeah, see, I didn't see any of that. We had a lot of fun with we knew it was from over there, like all of the different topics was that was where it was from. But oh god, there was some fun conspiracy theorists on who'd done what to an animal, and it's like, why is it always got to get dirty? Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like what was the original thing with AIDS? It was something to do with a monkey and someone who shouldn't have done something that they did.
Because AIDS came out. I mean, Fauci's got his fingerprints all over AIDS as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you go back and you read about Fauci then, and of course there's that amazing book, you know, The Real Anthony Fauci. And, you know, at the end of the day, once you add all these pieces of the jigsaw up, you're right. People are going to look at that next time. But I don't think I think they thought COVID was going to be a little bit more deadly than it was. I just don't.
You think they genuinely, the powers that be, thought it was going to be worse?
I think they thought that more people were going to die because the media was finding cases. And then the media were and then hospitals were doctoring death certificates and emergency doctors were coming out going, no, we've got to take these people off ventilators. The ventilators are killing people. It's not we're doing the wrong thing. So there was this whole thing about we just don't have enough people dying from this.
Yeah. The fact that the media was finding cases is kind of like, well, you know, they're bought and paid for, so
exactly.
They're going to get fed whatever.
Yeah, and then it was like, I just remember one morning going, we've got 5 more cases in Australia today. It's like, well, hold on a minute, 3,000 people last year died of the flu. When do we get to that number?
Yeah, that's right.
I was like, oh my God, this is just a joke. Like
Do you want to top up?
I may just have a little top up.
All right.
Why not? Thank you. But I think it was a joke for me at first. Seriously, I think I was just... Until it became really serious, until people's families were being ripped apart and businesses were closing down, and
I've had a lot of conversations.
People were dying from the jabs and getting sick from the jabs. I mean, then people were being ostracized, and then all of a sudden we had this horrible, you know, masking thing where people that weren't wearing masks were getting ostracized, and then we had these vaccine passports with green ticks, and then about a month into it, I thought, actually, this is not a joke anymore. I'm becoming deeply disturbed, and I got to fight this. You know, I need to speak out about it. I need to sort of show people the logical steps. You know, hey guys, you could go to Woolies. So, hey guys, remember when I was in JB Hi-Fi the other day, and there was about 500 people in there. So what happened was, they said, all the kids are going to stay home from school. Disaster, by the way. And I was like, oh no. And so I had to go into JB Hi-Fi. Well, I couldn't move in there. In the middle of the pandemic, I'm like, can I just get someone to help? Oh, no, excuse me. Oh, yep, no, you move in front of me. That's good. Can I just go over here? No, you've picked that up before me. There were hundreds of people in there. It was ridiculous because everyone's like, I got to lock down, so I've got to get all my tech. I've got to upgrade because if we're going to be locked down for months, because by this stage everyone's like, we're going to be locked down for... I'm like, no, we don't want to be locked down for months. That's a disaster. No. So I go in there Anyway, I just start looking at it all, and I just had this. I sort of stood back, and I had this moment of just complete. And the other thing that happened in April 2020 was my husband got knocked off his push bike because he thought, oh, there's no one on the roads. Let's take my bike out. So because we were just out all the time doing stuff.
Is he one of the spandex taking up a lane people?
No, he's not anymore. He's not anymore. But he's very considerate because he loves cars as well. So
Right.
he sits on both sides of the fence. Anyway, he got knocked off and he was lucky, but he still got taken to hospital in the ambulance, and he rings me and it's like, okay. So it's April, it's Easter. He said, I didn't think anyone would be on the roads. And this woman just came in. Anyway, long story. Cut a long story short, I arrive at emergency in the middle of a pandemic, and there's nobody in the hospital.
Yeah, right.
There's not a person. It was like I was walking through, the lights weren't even on hardly. I was walking through the corridor going, wow, it's
Closed.
closed. The hospital's closed.
Yeah,
it's like, where are all these people?
Well, didn't they say...
And aren't we in the middle of a pandemic? Aren't I supposed
Yeah.
to be seeing patients and trolleys and emergency doctors running around? I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Because guess what, guys? You're locking us away. You've got police harassing people. You've got patrols. You've got okay, so just give me something for this. Tell me, give me some justification. So I thought, you know what? Me going to a hospital, this is a good thing because this will finally wake me up to the dire emergency that this COVID virus truly is. I'm gonna be woken up here because at the moment it's a sham as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
So I walk through the hospital, nobody. So then I go through all the wards from the parking lot to get to emergency. There's not even a nurse. There's no doctors. It's just quiet. And I don't know.
Isn't that because they were telling people that if you test positive, stay home? Like make a phone call?
Well, no, they had signs on the door with stop. If you have these symptoms, just knock on the door and, we'll let you in and it's okay, But there were, so I went to emergency. I got in there and I said, oh, hey, I look at my husband on the bed and oh, yeah, you're okay. He goes, oh, they got to do tests, but I'm fine. I actually, broke my arm. Bit of a problem here, but lucky.
Yep.
Great. When are we getting out of here? So the nurse goes, oh, we can have him hang around for a while because you know what? We're bored. We are so bored. Oh, my God. There's no patients here. I said, but aren't you by this stage, I was livid.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, but, aren't we supposed to be in the middle of a pandemic? Because I see all the small businesses being shut down and I see people whose lives are being kind of torn apart here. So I said, I'd really like to see somebody in here. I said, do you have one COVID patient in this hospital? She goes, no. I said, come on, you got to have one. I mean, the Gold Coast is a pretty big city. Come on. It wasn't the biggest hospital on the Gold Coast.
And you've got an older generation down there too. Like that's not all young people. That's a lot of old money down there.
Yeah, and so I said, you've got to have one. Because she goes, no. I said, where are they all? Oh, there might be a few up at the other hospital, the public hospital. Oh, okay. So I saw one other guy. I went, oh, you got a guy over here. She goes, yeah, no, he's the only other person in the hospital. In the whole hospital, there were 2 patients in the middle of a pandemic. Now, for me, I would be changing the definition of pandemic on that alone.
Yeah.
For me, a pandemic is you're falling over on the streets, you're bleeding from the eyes, you go into the hospital, like those movies where you see outbreak and you see everyone running and trolleys.
Feels like a zombie movie coming on.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking, oh my God, this is going to change my mind. As soon as I go in there, I'm going to be like, yeah, no, okay, I get it. I don't, no one, we're overstretched. We're under-resourced. There's no... Yeah, she's like, oh, God, we're so happy he came in today. We were so bored.
So why was it, if why was it that shops like, hey, Woolies, Coles, get it. But why was it that shops like JB, I mean, and don't get me wrong, because we were stupidly busy through COVID as well, because nobody could go anywhere, so they just spent money on their cars.
Yeah.
But why was it, and I say that kind of on the back of this question, we were open because I just went, fuck off.
No, because you probably asked the same questions as me, and then you came to the conclusion that we're going to be okay, and this is not what they're saying it is, because the media are lying to us.
I would like to take credit for that, but I just went like, I got bills and people are willing to spend money. I'm fucking going to work.
Well,
but why
good.
would something like, because you think about a restaurant where people are, I would say on average at least a metre and a bit away from each other, because the waitresses and waiters have got to walk around, so they're not right on top of each other. So that food is a necessity, and not everybody can cook up a 5-star meal, so they like their takeout. And Americans they're even worse for a takeout than we are. You can have 500 people in a JB shoulder to shoulder. That's a way less necessity than eating dinner. And yet the restaurants got shut down. Why was it that places like that were allowed to stay open and others were being forced to shut?
It was all the small to medium-sized businesses. So you had hairdressers, beauticians, restaurants, bars.
So was it being forced to shut, or was it being that the customers weren't coming and they just couldn't maintain?
Well, my understanding was they had to close their doors, that we were all locked down initially. Yeah, okay. And then when they opened up, a lot of people stayed away. I remember when the border closed between... the border closing in Australia. Oh, God. Anyway, how ridiculous, because we have a property in northern New South Wales. So I was like, oh, well, we're going to cross that border. We're going to go down there and check it out. The bollards and the people handing children over the bollards and the police patrolling and then people walking around the bollards. Yeah. I
never saw that.
Yeah, well, I went down just to hang out for a while because I thought, well, I got to get over this border. I'm just going to walk around and maybe go through the park or something. Because we got to get down. We can't drive. And then you had passes, and then you had vax passes to cross the border, like Checkpoint Charlie. It was just because living on the Gold Coast, of course, the economy of the Gold Coast in Tweed and Coolangatta is very interrelated. People would live in Coolangatta and their kids would go to school in Tweed, and it was just such a nightmare for those people. I can't even understand it. And
we got Twin Towns, which is like on the line.
Families were actually, it was so preposterous. But you see, I could talk for hours on that 2.5-year experience. But the point is that you had personality types at the time and you had people joining Team COVID.
Yeah.
And they went in feet first, and no matter what anyone said on social media, no matter what any evidence that was put forward, no matter how much the media lied and the public servants lied and the politicians lied, because they then changed their narrative. So you knew they were lying, because they just changed the narrative again the next week. And then they change it again. Yeah. And then they change it again and say, oh, no, we never did that. So they're still lying. No matter how much that was shown to people, people just said, no, they just doubled down. Because there's also that part of human nature that you're not going to lose face. Once you've joined that team, you don't want to go, well, I kind of on the wrong side of history here. I made a big mistake. I'm going to join this team over here. I'm going to join the freedom team. Yeah. I was over here with the lockdown, dystopian nightmare, totalitarian nightmare team, but I'm going to move because I'm going to say to everyone, no, I shouldn't have said that. Now, look, not many people. It's hard. It's a human experience, as a saying. We're living a human experience, and people are easily manipulated. And
they're easily manipulated, and most people care too much about what other people think.
Yeah, and I care. I really don't care what other people think, and so I was less open to the manipulation, and I'm very lucky like that, and have fantastic people around me. Yeah. So I was really lucky, but at the same time, you're right. We need to keep that thought process going. Because
just fucking think for yourself.
It could happen again, as you say, and you do need to ask some questions. And people call it critical thinking. I kind of like the term, but you see, I'm not the smartest person on the planet, so critical thinking for me makes me sound like Einstein. It's probably not critical thinking for me personally. It's more like ask the obvious logical questions. Yeah. Get the logical, obvious answers. And do not believe anything that a politician tells you. Do not believe anything a public servant tells you. You believe the people that are qualified, that are being censored, believe the people that have everything to lose. Because the people that I followed during that time had everything to lose because they cared enough to go against the narrative that was being shoved down everyone's throats by the people in charge. And you and I have had a chat about that previously. Yep. And they said, I don't care if I'm going to lose everything as a doctor. I don't care if I'm going to get deregistered. This is wrong, and I'm going to say it. Yeah. Those are the people I was following.
Yeah, I think the easiest way, if somebody, and I've done this a lot of stuff with work, because obviously metal work, to get it really simple, there's a lot of different ways to do some of the stuff that I do.
Yeah.
And sometimes there'll be, if there's something that I'm not 100% sure on, I have just a very basic thing of I'll go, all right, I'm going to ask someone, and then I'm going to try and find someone that does it different.
Yeah.
So I can weigh up which one I like. And I usually end up with a bit of both, because it's like you take the information that you want. Now, on the COVID stuff, it's like that would be really simple to go, okay, cool. What are all the people saying that we need to do it?
Yeah.
Listen, okay, cool, sweet. What are people saying that say we shouldn't?
Yeah.
All right. And then make an informed decision.
That's right.
Because it's like, it's not, you don't have to have, it's like you don't need to know everything. You just need to know enough to work it out.
Absolutely. That's so well said. You're so right about that. You don't need to know everything about everything to make an informed decision.
No.
You don't. No. And, people, the biggest thing that people said to me in that 2.5 year period is, well, Melinda, you're not a doctor. You're not a doctor, Melinda. You're not a scientist, Melinda. You're not a doctor. No, I'm not. But I listen to scientists and I listen to doctors. Oh, and by the way, I may not be a Michelin chef, but I know how to cook a decent meal. Mm-hmm. I may not be a Formula One driver, but I can get from A to B safely, generally, all the time. Like I'm a pretty good driver.
Right.
So I may not do that for a living, but I know enough about driving that I can get in my car and I can go from A to B.
Yeah.
I may not be a teacher, but I can explain something to someone if I'm good at something and they need to understand it. I can sit and actually explain it to them. But I don't get paid for that. I'm not a qualified teacher.
Yeah.
So whenever someone said to me, oh, yeah, but Melinda, you're not a doctor. It's like, so? It still means I can make a decision about my life.
Yeah.
And I'm in control of my life. And I'm in control of my body. I'm in control of my health. And I found out about the jabs in March 2020. I had people sending me things because I was already connected. People were sending me stuff around the 4 companies that were going to bring out COVID vaccines. They were calling them vaccines. I still call them jabs because they weren't a vaccine under the definition of a vaccine. And you know what 4 companies they told me about in, I think it was February or March 2020?
What?
It was Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca and Pfizer. And guess what?
AstraZeneca and Pfizer, I've heard of them, but I didn't know Johnson & Johnson. I thought it was a baby shampoo.
All 4 of them brought out vaccines. So
Really?
in the end, that was right. That information that was fed to me from a source that I trusted ended up being correct. Now, I was talking about that early on, and not one person in my circle of friends or my colleagues or nobody believed me. I didn't tell many people, but of the people I told, not one person believed that there was a COVID vaccine. Not one person. And I said, well, not only is there a vaccine and it's sitting there and it's already been manufactured, but it's coming. The one thing I did get wrong was the timing of that, because I thought there's no way they would bring out a vaccine within 12 months. There's no way, because people will just go, oh, that's just ridiculous. You guys had this plan. And I thought maybe that's the thing that will kill this whole thing off, because people will wake up and go, no way. But so I said, they might wait for 2022, 2023, so they'll make our lives so miserable and so painful that people will just be begging for it, because it will just be so hard to do business and move around and cross borders and fly internationally, and you just need to live your life again. Everyone wanted their lives back. So,
Yeah, I think if you were forecasting that you probably would be right, but I think everybody complied so quick.
February 2021, I was a year or 2 out.
Yeah.
When they started rolling it out in February in the UK, I was like, what? Are you serious? No one's going to buy that. Nobody's going to buy that. I even said it to a couple of friends. I said, oh, yeah, as if anyone's going to no one's going to do that. Because, so every single time I said, well, no, this, and I was wrong about the human behavior, because I really thought that there would be trigger points that would wake people up.
We're sheep. People are sheep.
Oh, yeah.
For the most part.
So depressing.
But it's also what you need. It's to a degree, as far as an economy, a country, a group of people, whatever. You can't have them all chefs. You need some guys sweeping the floors and taking out the rubbish.
Totally agree with you.
What's that line? Too many chiefs and not enough Indians?
Yeah,
That's probably
that's it.
not politically correct anymore, but whoever get fucked.
You can say that.
You can? Right. So, but that's the biggest thing with people in general is that it's like, I get it. You need a little bit of mass following because otherwise everybody wants to run everything and nothing gets done because everybody wants to have the same level of voice. So I get from a hierarchy point of view, civilization, everything. You need some leaders and you need some followers.
Oh, look,
But the problem is the followers aren't following based on logical choice. They're following based on that team mentality, and there's an undertone of just kind of wanting to be told what to do because I don't want to have to think about it. Right, am I staying home? Okay, cool.
And look, I probably would accept that more probably if I hadn't grown up in Australia. If I hadn't grown up in a Western democracy, I would probably agree that had I grown up in China or had I grown up in Yemen or had I grown up in, say, another country other than a Western country where, you know, we when I was growing up, we were encouraged to think for ourselves, to dream our dreams and to be more individualistic rather than collective. I think, you know, Western democracy has been successful and Western civilization's been successful because we've had a few of those would have been followers in a different system who have been able to blossom and actually think for themselves in Western civilization and actually be braver and maybe take a risk or two that, and I think had I not had that kind of mind mapping when I was a kid, I probably would have accepted what you've said a little bit more.
Oh, I'm not even accepting it. I'm just saying like that seems to be what it is.
But that's when Australia started evolving into that. And that's where I was saying really early on when we were discussing that Australia is not the country that I think we want to be and that we were. I think we've lost a lot of that entrepreneurship, that risk-taking, that dreaming, that let's just go for it. Let's just, you know, take a chance. Let's stop worrying about identity politics and start worrying about, you know, who's good for the job, how do we want to help each other, how do we want to kind of build the nation, how do we want to love our country again, you know. I mean, the fact that in the last 20 years the Australian flag has been something that people have politicised into, you know, the conspiracy theorist freedom people versus the, you know, woke people, and the Australian flag has been somehow volleyballed between these two groups. I mean, that's tragic. And a lot of the reason for that is, yes, there's been sheep, but that culture has changed and shifted. And I want to move the country back more towards, yes, you still got that pool of followers and sheep-like people that you need, but you're still helping those really amazing and smart and risk-taking and kind of dreaming people out of this kind of constricted censorship, woke identity politics narrative and into this is a different world for us. And it's the world that we really knew about. I mean, when I was at school in the 80s, the messaging was very, very different. I mean, you look at the graduates from my classes and the classes before and after me in the 80s. I mean, you know, there's a lot of people doing a lot of really great things. And I think it's very school-based now that, you know, there's a lot of people still doing really great things, but it's dependent on the school. Like if you're in the state school system, you've got teachers right now dressing up as cats, and you've got ideology in classrooms that are, you know, brainwashing, indoctrinating people into exactly what you are saying, into this box of conformity and sheep-like, and they are indoctrinating kids to do that. That is what we've got to stop, because we want those kids to go, no, actually, I'm an individual. I'm not going to collectively think what everyone else thinks. I'm actually going to have an opinion. And I'm going to go out there and dream my dream. And I might want to do something really different. I might want to invent something. And, you know, I don't want to be measured by my skin color or my sexuality or my gender. I don't want that. I actually want to be measured by my outcomes and my outputs and what I do. And you see, that's the shift. And you see, I think what you're saying is true, but let's shrink that pool a little bit and let's get that other pool of a few more dreamers and entrepreneurs and people who are going to be really productive members of society. Let's just increase that pool a little bit more.
I think that would be awesome. I mean, COVID put a lot of people back in the box though.
It did. It was awful to watch.
Yeah, and I don't like. I've had friends that lost jobs. I've spoken to people that, you know, took what they thought in the beginning was, you know, full-time work from home, and they're like, this is fucking great.
Yeah.
I don't have to leave, I'm going to get paid, and it's all good. And now well, not so much now because a lot of people are out of it, but after not that long of doing that, they're just dealing with like depression, and because they're like, I can't go anywhere, I can't do anything. It's like I took what I thought was almost going to be like a working holiday.
Yeah.
Because they're at home all day, they can do their job in their pajamas, answering phone calls.
Yeah.
And it's like the devastating mental just pressure and everything that came with that after the honeymoon period of the idea had worn off. It put people back in a box in a way that I think there was something on there that we were looking at not that long ago about the average the childhood schooling. It's like the kids coming through in that generation that will graduate of the COVID years, are X amount % backwards because of the time at home,
Absolutely,
and all that sort of stuff. Like
that's actually been proven now. And it's also the mental health of the kids that were teenagers for that 2.5 year period. Now, you can imagine during the most socially awkward, the most difficult time of your life. I mean, we've all been teenagers, particularly teenage girls. I mean, 14 is, let's face it, 14, 15, 16. Any parents out there that have teenagers right now will know exactly what I'm talking about. Any women out there remember being a 14-year-old girl, and we didn't even have the social media pressure that they've got today.
Yeah.
All of that stuff, and then on top of that, you are actually killing the social interaction, the normal brain development and social cues and the understanding. And they wonder why there's a youth crime crisis. They wonder why the grades are going behind. They wonder why the education in Australia and our standards are slipping. They wonder why parents have got these kids that are running around selfish and entitled. And a lot of it is because they haven't had the right social conditioning, not just from the COVID stuff, but also from the woke stuff. Yeah. We're breeding generations of kids that are entitled. They've never had it tough. They've had everything handed to them. And at the end of the day, when it was COVID, they go, oh, we get to do whatever the hell we want to do, and we get to do it at home for quite some time. Now, it wasn't for the whole 2.5 years, granted, but I can tell you that it was at a very precious time of development. Anyone that had a child between 13 and 17 years old, will know the impact, probably more, maybe 10 to 17, will know the impact of that 12 months in 2020 and what it did. And then, of course, you've got the parents that went ahead and put the COVID jab in their kids' arms because they were scared and afraid and fearful, and they weren't able to get informed consent from their doctors because the doctors didn't know what on earth was going to go on with mRNA and how that was going to impact them. So no one in that period had informed consent. No one can honestly say they had it. Doctors are coming out now going, well, we didn't know. It's like, but that's the point. You didn't know. Yeah. That's actually the point. So at the end of the day, you've then got that extra layer of stress and pressure that parents had, not really knowing which way to go, and the division in society between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, and that will be intergenerational as well.
Yeah,
so we're raising these kids in this kind of new. Was we swerved as a society? We did swerve. So
we were already down that path with the bullshit of the participation trophies and all that stuff. Pre-COVID.
Every child player wins a prize.
Yeah,
of course.
What a fucking joke.
It was a joke, but the thing is, what we extended from that is we allowed that to take over our own. We were being parented by the government. So the same things that were happening with children, people were acting like that when. Listen to the language and go back and watch some of the videos of the chief health officers talking to the public. I mean, it's so disgusting to me because it was like a parent talking to a teenager or to a child. It was so
patronising.
It was insulting. It was patronising. It was childlike. It was like and you see, this was all being. As people were being indoctrinated into that spin, then the parents would then indoctrinate their children into the same spin. Because I would see videos of it. I would see parents teaching their kids and, they would film, lecturing their children and then pop it on Facebook or put it out there, go, oh, look at me, look how much of a great parent I am. It's like, parenting is not entitlement. It's not giving your kids, everything they want, and it's tough discipline, and it's difficult, and it's horrible. And when they're teenagers in that vulnerable time, you know, it's not the easy way out. But a lot of people took the easy way out, and then the parenting thing. And now we've got youths in Queensland who are, you know, you're 13, 14, 15-year-olds jacking cars and walking up to houses with machetes. And then you've got the government actually comes into power, and one of their key platforms in Australia for the government, a state government, is the youth crime crisis. I mean, what does that tell you about our society? That's the key election platform of a state government. It tells you that our society isn't healthy. And COVID did not add to that. It helped that. That's what I'm saying. It helped it.
It amplified it.
It amplified it. You know, and I think that we all need to just start to front up, and we need to start to hold people to account for it. And I think we need to heal from it. And I think Australia has to move forward the way that America is moving forward, in that not only do we need to take our country back, but we need to say, and by the way, just so you know, that's never happening again. And the people that were involved, we're going to hold you to account. It's got to be part of that revolutionary process, I think.
Yeah, there's a massive correction that's got to happen. And we've said it on here before, it's my favourite line to go through what we're dealing with now. The best way I've ever heard it said is hard times create
I love that
strong
saying.
men.
Yes.
You know, strong men create easy times.
Yep.
Easy times create weak men. Yes. Weak men create hard times.
Yes.
And we are in the middle of a fucking hard time.
Yeah, we're in the middle of, we're in the little part of that circle that's weak men create hard times.
Yeah.
And, you know, in Australia, that's been a slow burn. Western society, it's been a slow burn. But one of the reasons why I started writing my book is because of the fabric of Western society being pulled apart. By design, you know, if you look into it and you go really deep, I don't go too deep in my book, but I acknowledge it and I talk about it. But the thing is, if it's there. And if you, I mean, look at the UK right now. Look at what's happening in the UK.
Yeah, now, they're in the middle of a big correction.
Well, you know, once again, you've got a personality like Tommy Robertson. And as I said, I've said to people before, it's not about Tommy Robertson. He is the symbol. He is the figurehead. Him as a person is less important than a man who's white, an English, British white man, and with all of his faults, and let's face it, we've all got them. We're all flawed. It's a human experience. But he's moved from Tommy Robertson to the symbol of, we have now lifted the lid on what's been going on with the mass immigration in the UK, the way that the lid has been lifted in the US with the mass immigration and open borders, and the cultural dilution of Western values. Now, anyone can come up to me and go, well, you're this, Melinda, you're transphobic, you're Islamophobic, you're racist, you're sexist, you're this and that. I get called every name under the sun. But the bottom line is, because I don't care, is that the reason why Western civilization is so successful, and the reason why all of the other people of the world are moving into the Western civilization, is because they're leaving the places behind with the values that weren't working and turned their society into a place that wasn't a very nice place.
But those people are fine when they want to come here and do it our way.
Legally.
But don't come legally for sure.
Absolutely.
Legally. But I said this to Pauline as well. You can't have a place like this and not expect people to want to come. But at the end of the day, if you're going to come because you don't like where you are, leave your shit that you left behind. And
that's not happening in Australia.
No.
And you need to understand it's not happening in Australia. It's not happening in the UK. It's definitely not happening in New Zealand or Canada either. But particularly the US, Australia, and the UK, that has not happened. The exact same religion and value system that was sitting in those countries is being imported into Western civilizations. Now, the cultural value system is the important thing here. It's not even about religion. It's not about whether you're a Buddhist or a Christian or a Muslim people will say to me all the time, oh, Melinda, it's forget about religion. It's not that. It is about absolutely values and behaviors.
Yes.
It's all it is. If you come in and you practice whatever religion you want to practice. I don't care whether it's whatever, Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim, Christian, Catholic, Protestant. I mean, how many religions are there? Millions of them.
I'm going to start mine.
Yeah, so like cults, religions, you do, Jehovah's Witness, do what you need to do. But if you are not fundamentally following the cultural value system, which I think is above religion, if you are not following that, then you are not welcome in the country.
Well, religion's personal, culture is everybody. So they should be.
And culture is how you interact with your fellow human beings who don't necessarily have your religion, who don't necessarily live in your neighborhood, who don't necessarily agree with everything that you agree with, you know, who might be left and you're right, and might be that cultural values surpass everything. And I talk about this in the book. You know, at the end of the day, if you come into this country and you think that marrying a 9-year-old is okay, we would say in Western civilization, no, actually, that's a law of we don't like that because our cultural value system has provided a law that says that we don't like pedophilia. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we are saying collectively as a society, that we don't like that and we don't want that. So that means that if you're kind of under 16, then you don't get to attack children. That's what you don't get to do. So you don't come into our country. There's other things as well. There's different other discussions and behaviours and protests and signage, and there's a whole range of things that people go, well, you know, it's a free country, Melinda, and it's a free this, free that. No, I'm a freedom of speech advocate. I'm a freedom person through and through. Anyone that sees my feed on X, freedom, freedom, freedom. However, freedom stops when you are completely against the decent cultural value system that you have bought into. So in other words, you know, I'm not going to scream for someone to get murdered. I'm not going to do that. I mean, if I got up on a platform and I'm yelling for a person to be murdered because I didn't agree with what they said, and I'm throwing my weight around and I've got a lot of people. No, actually, we don't like that. That's not freedom of speech. That's actually, and this is where I think Pauline even spoke about it the other day in Parliament. This is hate speech, but hate is I don't like the words hate speech because I still think that it doesn't get to the heart of the matter. The heart of the matter is this compromising our goodness and our decency and our value system?
G'day legends. To help support the brands and support us, get onto our website and check out who we've chosen to partner with. For everything custom 4x4 and accessories, visit wildsidegarage.com. While you're there, don't forget to check the links for the discount section, where you can get 10% off brands like Carbon Off-Road, MAXTRAX, and In-House Fabrication. Remember to like and subscribe to help us grow the channel and bring you even more from Wildside.
It is. The problem is that there's a word like, or a phrase or a saying or whatever, like hate speech. But that's just an umbrella, and people shove so much shit into it.
Yeah, and it's like half of that stuff that they talk about. Look, Anthony Albanese wants to do hate speech laws. It's like, well, no, you don't get to do that, Anthony.
No
because
fucking
guess
way.
what? We have enough laws in place right now that protect the Australian people from bad behaviour.
Yeah.
So you don't need a hate speech law. You certainly don't need a misinformation and disinformation law, and thankfully we batted that away just temporarily. But what you need is you, as the leader of this country, you need to stand up and reinstate the values that this country stands by. And some of those values are that you all get to have an opinion and you're all equal and you all are just as important as somebody else. And we don't play identity politics. And we don't stand up and scream at people and ask people to be killed or murdered, because that's actually against the law. We have defamation laws for people who get attacked personally and lose reputational and have lies told about them, and they have reputational damage. We've got laws to protect that.
Yeah.
So we already have all of that in place. What we need to do is have leadership and courage where we say to certain groups of people, we know you think you're protected, because there's wokeism and there's all of these protected species and there's identity politics, and you think you can get away with doing what you can do, but in actual fact, you can't. And I'm telling you, over and above everybody else, that was bad behaviour. And you say it. No, we don't accept that behaviour. That's bad behaviour. If you don't do this, you're deported. You're out. We don't protect you because you think, oh well, I'm a Muslim, or I'm part of the transgender community, so I can, I'm a woman, so I can say or do pretty much whatever I like. No. You see, wokeism has enabled all these people to just come out and say and do, and the fabric of our value system is being ripped apart because no one's holding certain people to account because we're so scared of being criticised for it.
But that's the biggest problem with it, because it's like they've come out with all these different things, and you can put it under trans, and you can put it under race, and you can put it under religion, and you can put it under all these other different things. And as soon as you say anything negative towards a person that is any one of those or any number of other things, it's like, oh, you said that to me because you're racist, and you said that to me because I'm trans. Why can't you just turn around and go, I don't care who you pray to.
Sorry, I shouldn't have done that because I behaved really bad. Look, the classic example, it's just happened a few weeks ago this week she went to court, with Sam Kerr. And I mean, at the end of the day, when you actually have a look at the video footage, and I took the time out to do it, I took the time out to have a quick look at what she supposedly said and why she had to go to court. I mean, forget about the court case. That's not even important.
Yeah.
What's important is you're the captain of an Australian sporting team. You breached every kind of value system and behaviour that is important to any decent Western democracy, who says that for girls and to have a role model for young girls, this is what we expect you to be, because the functioning society that we've built up through wars and history and we've decided that this is the kind of nice place we want to be in, you've just breached all of that because of your bad behaviour, and you're a public figure. And you just won't own up to it. You just won't stand up to the Australian people who idolise you, young girls that idolise you, and you just won't say, I'm really sorry.
Just go, I fucked up.
I got drunk. I spewed. I was a bitch. I'm really embarrassed about my behaviour, and I am really sorry. And we'd all go, you know what? Who hasn't been there?
Yeah, exactly.
Who hasn't had a big night on the Terps and gone, waking up the next day going, oh my God, did I say that to that guy? Did I really do that? Oh my God. And this is, I'm a lot younger when I think about that, but who has not done something in their life that they regret? We all have. We've all had to apologise, and we've all had to be like, oh, I'm really sorry about that. We're not perfect, but you have put yourself on your own little woke identity politicking pedestal where you think you're untouchable because of your identity, not because of who you are as a human being or because of the value system that you follow. And that's what I mean. I come back to that cultural value system every day. If you think that behaviour is what Australians should be doing without apologising, well, you're wrong.
Yeah, but I agree. But you have a certain type of personality out there that first of all, they don't want to admit they're wrong because they would rather argue the point of why they did what they did, which is like, because that's for them, that's better than they'll save face versus saying, look, I fucked up. But the problem with it is whether it's something like that, like where they've gone out and done something in public and now they're not handling it well, or the same mentality that comes across to the same sort of people that you have a dig at for something that's got nothing to do with race, nothing to do with religion, and nothing to do with their cultural heritage or gender. But if you say something negative to them, it's I'm a different race to you, so you're racist, or I'm trans and you're not, so you're transphobic. Why can't it be no? You're just a fuckwit, And
Yeah.
I don't agree with you. Why have you got to bring
because
race,
that's
religion into it?
That's their get out of jail free card. Because that way they can get excused. And the thing is, we've got to stop doing that. And the cancer of wokeism is excusing people for bad behaviour. And then that bad behaviour is then passed down through public figures to kids that think that, it's okay to have that attitude. It's okay. Because I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I looked up to sports people. I got my social cues from my heroes. You know, we all had our sports that we played. And so this is about understanding, you get your social cues from politicians, you get your social cues from sports people, you get your social cues from your teachers and the people that you're learning and growing from. So then you get 20 years of this junk. And you turn out and you've got a Sam Kerr and you go, well, of course she'd be like that because she was enabled to be like that. And then, of course, you've got this big divided society that starts defending her and you go, well, no, because I don't want to live in a country that thinks that's okay. I want Australia to be better. We want our society to be better. We want our kids to be better. And we want our kids to go back to going, when I do something wrong, I'm going to apologise for it. As hard as that is going to be for me, I'm going to come and say I'm sorry because I'm going to learn how I make mistakes. And, when you get into a relationship, you're going to learn that really quickly. If you can't apologise to your partner. And I was talking today to a wonderful person who's a social psychologist, Dr. Dina McMillan, and she was saying to me, we were just talking about relationships and her insight into the way girls are in relationships, these young women are in relationships with men now because they actually don't understand how to kind of compromise and how to sort of understand the man and understand masculinity versus femininity because they've never had a lot of that education because wokeism has sort of told them that, well, you're a woman and you're a girl and you can do anything and you can be just as good as boys and don't you take any of that shit from the guys. I mean, you're empowered and you're enabled and that's doing damage to girls.
I think
massive damage.
Yeah, I think it's amazing for entrepreneurship, workmanship, going out and chasing your dreams and stuff like that. But it's kind of like, if you're that personality in a relationship with a male,
it's not going to work.
You're dating a female because the blokes won't. They'll just go, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, exactly. And the interesting thing is, I got all the really good messages about be yourself and work your dreams and everything in the 80s.
Yeah.
I just didn't have this layer of bullshit about, oh, well, you're a girl too, so that makes you better than the boys. I mean, girls are being told for the last 20 years by these woke people who are out on social media and they're out in Hollywood and all the celebrities, particularly in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
You watch all of the interviews on American television and you watch morning TV interviews with all of these different types of people, musicians and celebrities, and everyone, and it's so great that it's a female director with female cast, and, it's so good that Hollywood's finally recognized. It's like, no, hold on a minute. I was watching females in leads in the 70s. I mean, what are you talking about? Oh, because females have been so victimized and we've had it bad for so long. It's like, women have it so good right now. The last 20 years, the last 30 years. I mean, it's great to be a woman. Are you kidding? And yet these girls are coming out of school thinking, I've got to be, fight the patriarchy and I've got to, fight harder for what I've got because I'm a female and the men are, it's a boys' club out there and this whole, white privilege, boys' club, male patriarchy, and it's all this language that wasn't even around when I was around. And I'm
was
like,
girls, toxic masculinity is one of them?
Oh my God! A girlfriend of mine said that to me the other day. I said, "If you please, never in front of me use toxic and masculinity together in the same sentence.
Yep.
Please, we need masculinity. Can I just say to the world out there, whoever's listening, we need masculinity. We need real men. We need it. We must have it. We must have strong men. We must in a strong society. And we need femininity. We need nurturing.
It's the yin and yang.
We need beauty. we need love. We need the softness. We need the hugs, and we need the guidance, and we need the emotional maturity. And women are going to give that. Men are going to go out there and just get out there and
tear shit up.
You know, and they're going to, and the women are going to go, you go there, honey. I don't think that's a good idea, sweetheart. Maybe you should think about that. And the man said, really? Well, okay. Because the guys are like, you're my woman. These are my kids. This is the deal. I'm going to bloody die for you guys. Oh, if you're going to die for us, then how about we maybe support you? How about we give you some love? How about we chat to you? How about we put our arms around you occasionally? How about we nurture you? How about we, because you fucking die for us. You see, that's the thing. That's the deal. That's a pretty good deal, girls. If you have a really great man in your life, they will stand in front of a bullet for you. They will protect you. They will be the man, and you have to let men be men. Now, I'm not saying the guys are going to walk all over you, and I'm not saying that they're going to boss you around, but you're in a partnership, and they're masculine and you're feminine. Now, once you can work that out, you'll stay together forever. You'll meet your soulmate.
Yeah,
you know
I don't think there's anything wrong with masculine energy or feminine energy. I think both of those have their place. I think the biggest thing that in conversations I've had that keeps jumping out is that, yes, some men, because you can say there's some men, some women, and it goes in both directions. But it's like, right, some guys are a little harder and some guys are a little softer. But, you know, some women are a little harder, some women are a little softer. I think the beautiful blend of it all is when the energies match. You know, a man is in his masculine energy, a woman is in her feminine energy, and the guy's not trying to get the girl to talk to him like one of the boys, and the girl is not trying to get the guy to talk to her like one of her girlfriends. Like, I don't fucking speak the way you speak. When you girls, and there's so many jokes on YouTube about it. It's like when your woman comes to you and goes, I've got a problem. It's like, okay, before you start, are you after a solution?
Exactly.
Or do you just need a pair of ears?
I'm happy to be ears, or the man's going to jump in and go, I'm going to solve your problem for you.
Yeah, but that's what we do.
But you do it. And, you know, like I'm not in a perfect relationship. Goodness me. I mean, you know, when my husband listens to this podcast, he's going to go, here we go. What's coming
next?
Now,
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah.
Maybe give her another glass of wine and let's see what she really thinks. You know, well, no, I didn't actually mean for you to reach for that, but anyway, you're doing it anyway. But, you know, in all honesty,
I want the juicy goss.
You know, but the thing is that he is just, he's a man. He's got masculine energy. He's sensitive and deep, but he is still the man. He is the man in the relationship. Like, it's just there's no argument about that. You know, when I have a problem, you know, a transmission fell out of my car the other day. My car's in the shop, and it's good that I'm here actually because I was going to talk to you about that later.
Right.
But anyway, my car broke down, and the first person I call him.
Yeah, because in that moment, you don't want to vent about your shit day. You need a fucking solution.
I go, mate, you blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, what did they say and what's happening, you know? And then there's a moment and you're stuck and you go, right, I need a rescue here. You know, I got to call, you know, the man, if you've got a good man in your life, I mean, he will drop everything. He will drop everything, not just for you. He will drop everything for your friends. If I had one of my girlfriends rang up my husband and said, oh my God, I'm stuck, he would just drop everything immediately. Yeah. Because a real man just goes, right, that's my job. I'm out there. I'm gonna get out there and I'm living my life. I'm solving problems. I'm conquering the world. You know, I mean, that's what men do. And I mean, you have to let men do it. And some days I go, look, no, I just don't need you to. No, I knew you would say that. No, I don't want you to. Oh, okay, just go ahead. And he's like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yep, I didn't need that right now, but that's what men do.
Well, we hear a problem. For the most part, men are like, results focused, action driven,
Yeah.
you know, or action driven, results focused, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's like it goes back to what I said before. And there is yin and yang, and there is give and take, and this is not a hard and fast black and white thing. But for the most part, it's like we are not a girlfriend.
No, we're not.
You know,
Yeah,
and
you're
you
not.
guys
You're
are not one of the boys.
Mm.
It's like if I want to have a conversation and bitch and whinge and carry on, I'm not going to do that typically to my partner. I'm going to ring him, you know, because he'll just tell me to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, man.
You know, and it's the same like with
You're great.
Yeah, he's not talking much. But it's like the girls, like you girls have this.
Well, we have our little posses and
Yes.
our girlfriends. You talk to any girl, it's like, oh, thank God for my girlfriends. Thank God for our girlfriends. We have girls' weekends, we have girls' dinners, we have, you know, and it all gets laid out the table. And then we come home and we look at our man and we go, wow, you're just the best. Because we've had to pull apart things. We're very emotional. We layer it down. We pick apart stuff. We talk about our men, but we don't betray them. We just go,
No.
yeah, well, you know, I mean, we've just got to, this is something, and, you know, we've got to try not to trash talk. That's betraying your partner.
Yeah.
So I don't trash talk, but you've still got to have your confidence, and girls get right into the nitty gritty. And,
Yeah.
you know, they talk about dirty talk with men, and you guys got nothing on the way girls talk.
No, it's like women at strip clubs.
Oh,
Like,
my God.
Men will go to a strip club and sit in the corner and just be like, oh,
Yeah,
my
but
God.
you might get a lap dance or something. Your girls are like, let's face it.
Yeah, look at boys going wild or whatever it is.
Yeah. Oh my
Okay,
God.
I've heard some stories out of that joint.
And I can
Jesus.
tell you it's all true. But women are, yeah, but women are just, we're just as sexualized. We love partying, and we love to do all the stuff that men like to do. And if you find a partner that you can do it with, and you can party with him, and you can go to bands with him, and you can do it, that's great. But you guys need your boy time. We need our girl time. You know, it is about making sure that, you know, the men feel loved and appreciated, and occasionally you got to put them up on the pedestal, and I do, because, you know, like sometimes my husband and I have been together way too long, so he probably sitting here now looking at me, you don't do that enough with me. I mean, you don't do that either. Actually, you just talking the big game right now, but but the reality is that, you know, he's now doing music. He's just put out his first song on Spotify. He's
nice.
doing some really, really great creative things. And I've been there every step of the way. I've listened to every song. Sorry, mate, 10 times over. But the other day I had to go, please don't play that for me again. But the thing is, I've been on the journey. I've been with him. I still will stay with him. We celebrate every little thing that happens. It's a celebration. And you've got to be there, and you've got to be a partnership, and you have to celebrate the wins, and you've got to celebrate and say that is amazing, and what he has done has been amazing. It's been a dream of his for 20 years, and he's finally, you know, and amongst all of our businesses and all the stuff that we do, because we're very busy people, he's nailed it and he's done it, and I'm so happy and excited for him. We've been together 23 years, and I'm just as happy and as excited as I would have been 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for him, because in the end, it's a friendship. It's like, oh my God, you did that? I mean, you're friends. You've got to be friends. But even though you're friends, he's a man.
Yeah, see,
He's a man.
I think men, there's probably an upper crust of you know, items that men want and that women want, but I think the biggest thing is men want to be respected.
Yeah.
And women want to be wanted.
Yes.
You know,
That's very good. I
There's,
like that.
you know, I've had friendships in the past, and I've had conversations over the years where it's like the guy just, we don't need to be like, you know, admired and adored and, you know, fucking the, you know, parting of seas to, you know, your legacy and all that bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just like respected. It's like, and the women want to feel wanted.
That's right. And
But it's like-
so simple. And yet
yeah.
we see this bullshit going on right now in this kind of new age of
men are women and women are men.
And not only that, I
fucking
think
joke.
reality TV has a lot to say for the destruction of these relationships because, you look at shows.
Married at First Sight and all that bullshit.
I was going to say Married at First Sight, but I didn't want to say it.
Oh, sue me. I don't care.
No, but I just mean, I've never watched a whole show. I was sick one day, I think. That's right. I got sick last year and I watched 10 minutes of Married at First Sight.
Yeah.
And then I also watched some of Love Island. And then years ago, I watched something else. I can't remember what the show was. And I remember thinking, oh my God, girls, are you really behaving like this? You know what? I didn't even really notice the men in the shows.
Yeah, because it's all about the bitching and whinging.
Oh, I was so horrified. I said, is this a true reflection of our society now? Or are we, or is this just because the producer's gone, let's pick the most kind of frantic people and hectic people and stick them together because we need good TV and we need this show to keep going. So we got to kind of go next level. And then I'm thinking, but is this a reflection of where we're going? Once again, I go back to this core values. I mean, I'm talking about core values and relationships as well. Yeah. I mean, shit. Are we really saying that this is the reflection of society now? Is this how you guys are behaving?
That's the problem though. Is when they start, they're not a reflection. But as they grow in popularity and as that narrative gets pushed, it starts to influence.
It does.
The best one, I fucking love this. I've watched a few of these bits and pieces in passing, walking past, and all you hear is as I'm walking out of the room.
Oh God!
And it's bitching and whinging and carrying on it, and it's got all the substance of I don't know what's something that's got no fucking substance. Anthony Albanese.
Good job. I love that.
But you hear this shit, and every time I hear it, there's a line in Billy Madison where Billy Madison's just done his little speech thing and the principal gets up on stage and he says something to the effect of, at no point during any of that did you form anything that could be considered a coherent idea. You're awarded no points and may God have mercy on your soul. And that's all I hear when I see that shit is I'm like, you're a bunch of fucking idiots.
And you see, people watch this show. And I've got a really close friend of mine and she's beautiful, smart, intelligent, la, 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 la. And she goes, I'm going to go home tonight and I'm just I'm going to chill and just watch maths for a while to switch off. It's like, I tried. I actually tried one day when I was ill because I couldn't move off the couch. And I was watching some rerun in the middle of the day. I was really sick and I was couch bound for like a week. And it was last year. I thought, no, I'm going to, because I know a guy that was on it and he's a friend of ours now. And he's a really good guy and we like him. And the thing is, so I thought, no, I'm going to watch this show because he talks about it a bit and it's changed his life and he's very popular now and he's got his social media following and he's good looking and, okay, let me see what he's talking about here.
Yeah, well, there's no fives on that show.
Well, this is a few seasons ago. So,
right.
Yeah, I haven't watched it lately, but I tried to watch the season. I just thought, I can't do it. I can't actually watch this behavior. But then I think to myself, as I do, because I'm sort of trying to look at society and I'm interested in trying to get, us back where we used to be. And this is a topic that interests me, is psychology.
Yeah.
Is I go, well, okay, if I can't watch this, but everybody else is, and this is like the 10th season, so people are watching this because this is not getting cancelled. How much influence are we? What is the influence here? Are we actually seeing some changes to, say, teenage behaviour because they might sit with their parents and watch Married at First Sight and mind map themselves and think that this might be sort of normalising behaviour with married couples? I mean, if you have kind of kids between 12 and 17, say, watching this show, or 18, I mean, who's to say if they're still at school that they don't sort of think that, this must be kind of, the way that boys and girls and the way that people get together and all this swapping. Because apparently, do they swap or they have dinner or they?
I honestly don't know the ins and outs of it.
No, neither do I. But I think they kind of look at somebody else's wife and go, "Oh, yeah, that looks all right." But
wasn't there a show called Wife Swap?
oh, is that what I'm thinking of? Swapping wives.
That's not maths, and it's not.
And then there's Farmer Wants a Wife as well.
Yeah. See,
So
there's parts of that I like.
Oh, is there?
Because
I never
it's
watched
focused
that.
on the man.
Well, then
right?
that's good.
And he's just
because it's the farmer. Yeah, I like that.
He's just an Aussie bloke. Whatever he's doing, they don't pick any fives. Like all the blokes still should be on the cover of fucking GQ. But there's the problem with it is that they all the media pitches it as reality TV. There's nothing fucking reality about it.
Yeah,
the bloke
right.
might be single and he might be a farmer, but that's about it.
Yeah, right.
Then you've got all these women that are competing for it, and it's sensationalized and ramped right up because they're all around each other talking shit. The problem with it is that, and they've probably got producers in their ears going like, "Oh, come on, like you bring a bit more energy or whatever."
Well, they'd have to because it's good TV, isn't it? Haven't we got to produce something that people are going to go, "Oh my god, I better watch this. It looks like a car crash." So
exactly, and people want to see the majority of people will watch a car crash.
Yeah,
they don't want to see someone beheaded, but they'll go, but they'll get the adrenaline dump of, "Oh, this is going to be bad."
Yeah.
But the problem with that is that the producers and the environment, because it's like Big Brother. It's not a real environment.
Yeah, well, that was kind of ground zero in Australia,
wasn't
it?
And
I even watched the bunny dance back in, was it 2000? I watched that.
Sarah Marie. No, that was a bum dance, not a bunny dance. Sarah Marie did the bum dance.
Didn't she have bunny ears or something?
I think she probably had bunny ears as well. But yeah, but that whole environment. First of all, it shouldn't be classed as reality TV. It's not
unreality TV.
But they wind each other up, and then they're probably given all sorts of bloody props from the producers to ramp shit up even more. I think everybody on that show is in some way kind of like what you see. But if you got them outside of that environment in a one-on-one, it's going to be like 20% of what you're seeing.
Of course, because of course our friend is proof of that. But the really interesting thing is, of course, that when you've got, dating apps and you've got these reality TV shows and when you've got Snapchat and you've got this whole social media environment, it's unreality anyway.
Yeah.
And then these poor kids,
And all the filters.
All the filters and the photos and the selfies. And I mean, when does reality set in? And sometimes I think...
the first date.
When reality sets in, it's like...
Fuck.
These girls are like, this guy's not worshipping the ground I walk on, and it's not... See, I come from the female perspective here. And I've got to say is that I'm hearing horror stories about young girls who are trying to understand the boys and they're trying to understand some masculinity and they're trying to, because they've just been indoctrinated. Yeah. And then so they're indoctrinated at school, they're indoctrinated at university, they watch these stupid reality TV shows. They've got all the social media filters and indoctrination coming in from TikTok and whatever. And then these poor loves sit in front of their boys that they like, and boys do something and they go, really? It's like, well, he's a boy. He's masculine.
Yeah, he's not your girlfriend. Yeah.
He's doing this. And then there's this kind of lit up, oh my God, and, girls spinning out of control. And, and I was just talking about this today, and relationships under this narrative of this last 20 years is very problematic for young people. Yeah. I said to a young person the other day, I said, how do you have a relationship now? I want to know, because I don't know where do you get your cues? You're no longer listening to your parents at about, 13 or 12.
Yeah.
I mean, you pretty much, you're in your peer group, your dating apps, university. Parents are pretty much, first 10 years, if you haven't got through what you need to get through as a parent, pretty much over. I was told that by a psychologist. Well, you've got 10 years as a parent. 10 years. By the time they turn 10, they're going to start turning and they start looking outwards. They don't look to you anymore. So you think, well, what the hell are these kids? What are they looking at? And then you look around at what they're looking at and you go, oh my God, particularly for girls and women. It's bad. And, and then you go out at night. That's another great thing. You go out at night if you're a guy, you see everything that's on the menu. There's no mystery. There's there's no illusion.
Yeah.
The girls, the feminism, 21st century feminism, which is just as toxic as wokeism because it sits underneath. It's a subset of wokeism. So 21st century feminism has done this for girls. I'm going to go out and I'm going to wear the shortest skirt, the highest heels. It's going to be a boob tube. It may be 6 degrees outside, but I'm still wearing this outfit because this is what men want. Men want this.
Yeah, I think there's a big. This is the thing though. Here
we go.
Down a rabbit hole. I have always been of the. I'm old school in some regards to the mindset of, you know, one woman at a time, dating, married, whatever. That's it. I just fucking. You want to cheat? You want to be a piece of shit? That's cool. Go do it on your own.
Well, I just don't know how you manage it. But anyway, a lot of people manage it really well. It's like, really? That's just so much effort.
Yeah,
I would never do it, apart from the fact that I wouldn't hurt the other person I love and I'm with. But it's a lot of effort. There's 2 big reasons.
Absolutely. It's like...
really? You're going to be...
From a moral standpoint, I don't like it.
Yeah.
From a fucking logistical standpoint,
it's like,
where the fuck am I going to find that time?
Right?
But on top of that, it's like, there should, you know, the girl, you know what, if you want to be a girl and you want to wear that sort of stuff and you want to go out and flash your ass, cheeks hanging out and stuff, go for it. But you're going to attract a certain type of bloke.
Oh, God, I just don't know why. I saw a video the other day, and it was a person who was, I think it was in the UK, and they had their mobile phone, and it was all these girls waiting to get into a nightclub. I think it was either Manchester or Ireland. It was somewhere northern UK, and I apologise for not understanding where it actually was, but I know it was over there. And it was just, I just thought, this defines for me. I'm going to write a book just on this. This is defining the female experience in the 2020s, right here, right now, is that there's like 200 girls trying to get into the nightclub, and they all look the same.
Yeah.
They're wearing the same outfit, and it's just Slutville. It's like the shortest skirts, the tiniest little, the boobs are out. It's like, girls, when did your mothers not tell you that a little bit of mystery goes a long way? When did that message to girls, when did 21st century feminism and empowering women take women back to this kind of spot where they think that their bodies do the talking instead of their personalities and their brains? I mean, yes, you've got to look pretty. You've got to look nice. You've got to look good. I'm a testament to that. Like, I'm no oil painting. But when I left school and I went out into the world, and I wasn't the prettiest girl, I wasn't, you know, there were plenty of girls that were more beautiful than me. They had beautiful long hair. They were just stunning. And obviously in the 80s too, we didn't have a lot of the obesity issues of today. You know, 40 years ago, we just weren't overweight. The society just wasn't overweight. And you really had to live through the 70s and 80s to understand that. Sort of started happening late 90s. But when you're a teenager in the 80s, none of us were overweight. I mean, I actually remember the one person at our school that was overweight. I still remember her name. So you see, it was an unusual thing. So we all looked good. We were fit. We were healthy. And we were all playing sport, and we were just out there. And when we went out clubbing, and I partied and clubbed like the next person, but we did not dress like that. We just didn't dress like that. We just sort of had some coverage. We just kind of looked different. It was not a lot of makeup. Our hair was natural. I mean, I just had natural curly hair, kind of short. It was, as I said, I wasn't this. But, you know, there were men everywhere. There were just boys wanting to talk. There were
because
men
you had
wanting
to work,
to check
you had
out,
to work
you know.
for it back then.
Well, because also, you know, you did have to work for it.
Yeah.
Like guys now just go up and go, wow, just look at that girl, you know, boom. And she's like, oh my God, he loves me. It's like, no. You're wearing a skirt that's pretty much showing what the meal's going to be back at your apartment.
But the problem with it too is that the apartment's happening that much quicker.
Yeah, and the thing is, that's telling him you're immediately available. And then when you put out too early and you wonder why he's going after you, and then he doesn't call you back, he ghosts you, and it's like, but babe, you've just done everything that you needed to do and that he needed you to do, but you see, you didn't take the time to actually let him see maybe who you were as a person. And if you covered up a little bit more, he'd have to actually peel back some layers, not just of your clothes, but of your personality.
There is a. This is going to get some hate.
Oh, no hate here.
I'm going to be a little bit generic, but the reality of men, and this is men before me and will be men after me, but the reality of men is they look at women in one of two ways. Obviously, we're not talking about mothers, daughters, sisters, stuff like that. A female that you could potentially be in a relationship with. Men will look at women in one of two ways: someone to have fun with, or someone to build a life with.
Well, you're gonna marry them, or you're gonna sleep with them.
That's right.
And
it's like, if you're gonna go out and dress like that, you are making that decision for them for the majority of the time.
You are the fun bag, and you are not the girl that he's gonna marry. And the problem now is that so many girls are out there looking like that. Is that none of them are getting married because they're like, well. Well, no, because, honey, if you look like that, he's not going to marry you. He's not going to have children with you because he doesn't want his daughter to look like that when she's 13.
Yeah.
So he may not realize it consciously, but subconsciously, if you're going to dress like that and look like that, that's a
You're at
signal.
least creating a tone for it.
Well, that's a signal that, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
But he's not going to marry someone like that because he doesn't want to be, because he goes, well, I'm worried.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to do that with me, who else are you going to do that with?
Yeah, exactly.
And men are possessive. They go, well, you're my lady. You're my lady. You're mine now. I want to be with you. I'm going to marry you. You don't be sleeping with another guy. I'm yours. And by the way, you don't show your tush and your boobs and and girls, I know you don't like to hear that. I know you don't want to hear it. But that's the truth, because that's the masculine way, because that's the way that men were built. And the reason why men were built that way and women were built that way is so we can procreate, we can have successful relationships, and we can be monogamous. I mean, once again, Western civilization, monogamy, strong relationships, strong families, successful society. That's what Western society built.
Yep.
That's why everyone wants to come to the West. But girls in the West are starting to lose the idea of femininity. And being feminine is not wearing a miniskirt, high heels, and a boob tube. It's not wearing a lace corset. It's not. Out to a nightclub. It's just not feminine. It's just like, look.
It's creating and keeping mystery.
Well, a little bit of mystery goes a long way. I say it every single day to girls. Sweetheart, just a little bit of mystery goes a long way. Men want to know. Men want a little bit of titillation. They're visual creatures. They want to see, is there something going on behind there? But before you show that, ladies, you show them who you are.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, before you see that, you get to hear me, my opinions, my values, my ideas. If you like me as a person, you get to know me. I might give you a little bit of a look-see, and then
the other side of that is that also buys the girls time to work out whether the guy is someone they want to talk to.
Oh God, yes.
Goodness. Once you're buddy 15 drinks deep at a nightclub, it's like, everybody looks like a superstar. Well, that's why they call them beer goggles.
Yeah, but you know what? When you see a girl wearing what they wear these days to nightclubs, I don't care. You can have one drink and you think they look great. You could have 3 drinks and think they look amazing. And once you've got 5 drinks in, you're like, every single woman in this club is amazing. And I don't care. I'm not going to be discerning. I'm just going to go out there and just do it. And and that's good for the guy, and I don't criticize that. But I'm on the other side of the fence, and I'm saying to girls, you watch don't be that.
Yeah.
Because eventually what women want is different to that. We actually want the guy. We want the protector. We want the man. We want a lot of women want the man to actually financially look after them too. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't have that. I've never had that. But I know girls that want that and like that, and I respect it. But irrespective, they want the man, and you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it doing that because the man is busy going, well, you know, I just want to kind of, and then you're done and you're flicked aside and you go, well, I missed an opportunity there because I actually really like this guy.
Yeah,
And,
you're right. You're right with the what word did you use before? We're not possessive.
Well, you're my lady. You're mine.
Yeah,
you know,
I think I've used the phrase before, and it sounds terrible, but it's almost like, and I say this, and I'm not talking about it in the same aspect as, you know, an item, but men want to have ownership.
But I don't say it in
Like,
terms of the item. I say it in terms of this human being is now connected to me, and the only word I can think of is mine because it's the word, it's the language, and she's mine. And do you know what? Ladies, if you find a guy who's really great, who's a nice guy, and he likes you and he goes, well, listen, you're my, you know, I want, it's like, bingo. Because you know how hard that is to find? Day
and age today, I wouldn't say that would be very common at all.
It's hard
so
to find.
Different now.
It's hard to find. It's very different. And I see people angsting about it. And, you know, I think, well, I was born in the sweet spot. I'm a Gen Xer. Yeah. So I've been really lucky.
What are we? What's 81? Are we X?
No, you're sorry.
What are we? What's Gen? What?
Oh no, you just make it. I think.
Do we?
You just make my crew.
No.
The people saving the world.
We're pretty close to the last.
We're the ones saving the world.
We
were the ones saving the world right now. We're the ones speaking out.
See, this one's got Shawnee's got an interesting relationship because they're two peas in a pod.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. What are you, 22 years we worked out the other day? Something like that?
Together.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
beautiful.
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
when you find your person.
When you find your person, you find it. But you're gonna find it, ladies. You're gonna find it harder to find your person if you dress like someone that needs to go and get laid on the first night you go out to a nightclub. You're not gonna find your person.
Yeah.
And look, finding your person these days is hard, but it's beautiful if you do. And
there's also so much more out there now because it's like there is I don't know, I've seen this pop up a couple of times. There's that, I think it's Riley Reid or whatever it was, that bird that was with one of the Paul brothers or something. I don't know, I can't keep up with that shit. But she's come out and it was some you know, big heartfelt thing about how the industry that she was in, it's, you know, done. And you're like, what the fuck did you expect?
But I mean, the thing is just that men want you to not have a really big history. They want you to be someone who's a little bit... I mean, they don't want pure and innocent, but they need to know that it's like
They don't know what. Yeah, we don't need pure and innocent, but we also don't need to know.
You don't need to know, and then you also need to know that what you do need to know, I think, as a man though, is that you need to know that, well, I'm a special person because she's with me longer and doing more and experiencing more with me than she has with other people. And I think that's important for a man to know that. It's the difference between men and women. I mean, women just these days, because of this sort of wokeism bullshit that's come to girls and young ladies, is that they somehow think they're equal to men. I say this till I'm blue in the face. Men and women are not equal.
Not on everything. No.
Well, we're different.
Yeah, that's right.
We're different.
Yeah.
You can't be equal if you're different.
No.
We are fundamentally different. I'm happy to have the words equal opportunity in a sentence.
Yes.
But when someone says to me equality and equal, no, we're not.
But there's different things too. Like
we're just not equal. We're different. Yin and yang means opposite.
Yeah.
It's different.
Right or wrong, I go bricklayer, man.
Yeah.
Childcare worker, female. Because a guy's going to physically, generically, there's some really strong women out there, and there's some really weak men, but we're being generic. Generically, a guy's going to be stronger, and generically, a woman is going to have more of that nurturing.
We are different.
Yeah, like that's.
But we were made that way deliberately. We're supposed to be different.
Yeah.
We are supposed to be different because masculinity and femininity together, working harmoniously, deliver the right outcomes to society, to families, to businesses, to children, to humanity, men and women working together. We are losing that thread because men are being vilified through the woke narrative. Masculinity is being stripped. And women are believing some of the narratives that are being put out there about men, and they're just not true. And this whole push to vilify, particularly white men around the world, is shockingly bad. And one of the reasons why I even started writing the book was because I was sick and tired of white men who were the champions of Western civilization, who brought Western civilization to the point where it got to where everyone wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
That was the white man. There was a lot of white women behind there, and there was a lot of white women in the front of it, and there was a lot of fantastic white women who have helped that cause. But at the end of the day, when you look through history and you understand the big decisions that were made to bring us to this point, it was white men. It wasn't Arab men who were still slaving. It wasn't African American men. It wasn't Indian men. It was white men who were developing empires and civilizations that decided to weave humanity through their governance, through the Magna Carta, through the Declaration of Independence, through really massive swerves in society that took society into a realm where those cultural values of goodness and Christianity and a lot of things around that narrative all came together to build, a system of parliament, the system of democracy. And that was all done by white men.
Can I play devil's advocate or steel man that, or whichever one works? That's going back through history. That's what happened. But there's also the question, I guess, in some regard of was it white men that did that? Because back in the day, we were so busy suppressing everybody else. Because there's no doubt in history that white men over the years squashed a lot of potential humanity competition or whatever of other races. So we had, I say we, it's like I didn't fucking write anything, but white men had more opportunity because we created opportunities by not allowing the competition to keep up either.
Well, look, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, there was the growth of civilization. And throughout history, colonization, civilization, really great examples, really bad examples.
Yeah.
And white men took over places and colonized and did some horrible things, but so did everybody else.
Yeah.
And you see, what happens is that we have a narrative that's singular to a certain skin color. But if you're talking about, let's take slavery, for instance.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest slavers were Arabs and black men in Africa. I mean, slavery it's a very big trade, and the people that decided that, we're going to get a bit of humanity about us here. We're going to abolish this.
Yeah.
And we're going to start to work out, because slavery had been going on for forever.
Yeah.
And who worked it out? Who decided, we're colonizing and we're doing this and we're doing that and we're bringing civilization to different areas, but we're slaving as well. And there were a few people that came up and said, this is shit. Slavery's shit.
Yeah.
I mean, look at, these are people. And it rose up and rose up and rose up. Well, the people that abolished it were white people. They stopped it.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it wasn't just white people that were slavers.
Yeah.
It's the narrative that everyone wants to believe, because that's the push. It's like, you guys were the slavers. We were... No. That's not history. Like, everyone was slaving around the world.
Was it more so white people that were slaving other races? Like, other people that were slaving were kind of slaving their own races?
No, white people were very much slaves throughout
Really?
history. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But...
So that's why I love doing this, because you learn shit.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure. I mean, we can always look that up. But
we don't fact check much on this.
But my understanding is that white people were slave traded heavily. And I can say that more than well, I don't know 100% for sure, but white people are, there is slavery still going on today.
We spoke about this.
And
Matt brought that up.
The major victims of slavery today are white women.
Yeah, Matt showed us a site when we had him on, and it was there was a massive amount of numbers of in Australia of people that were here like under duress or coerced or whatever, and they're sex workers and this and that and whatever else. Like, I didn't even realise that was a thing in Australia.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's small in Australia compared to around the world. I mean, slavery still occurs around the world. And I find it really interesting that because of the woke narrative and the black narrative and Black Lives Matter and we were the slaves and you guys were the slavers, is that we don't recognise that slavery still occurs and the main victims of slavery are white people, white women. So you see, the thing is, we're victims of being fed narratives. We get locked into narratives that get, and when you look at history and how people tried to improve and civilizations and how civilizations rose, and all of that with the bad and the good and the swerves and the good stuff swerve and the bad stuff swerve.
Yeah.
It's white people have done pretty well overall, and I'm going to defend white people because I've spent the last 20 years watching white people get denigrated and smashed and white men get made fun of and told that they should feel guilty, and then we should all feel guilty for our skin colour, for God's sake. And I've been watching that for, as I said, at least 10 years where it's been ramping up.
Yeah.
And I'm not prepared to sit back anymore and go, it's about the behaviours and the cultural values and how we all interact.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with your skin colour. And by the way, white people have done pretty well, thank you very much, and we've contributed to the world. And we've drafted Western civilization and we've allowed that to flourish. And there's a lot of great white people that have allowed people to be free, people to be democratic, people to be punished. For bad deeds. And, this is the sort of thing that we've got to stop playing identity politics and saying to people, you've actually got to start looking at how you're behaving and how certain groups are behaving rather than picking on a skin tone. Because at the end of the day, if I was to put a little scorecard in front of me about who's done quite well over history, I'd probably give white people a pretty high score. I probably would.
Look, as far as the history books, will show, and the future history that we're writing at the moment, I have to agree. There's a lot of runs on the board for a lot of good that white people have brought to the table. But I still, and I said this with Pauline Hanson as well, I still sit back with, in Australia particularly, because obviously everywhere else is everywhere else, but I still sit back in Australia and I'm like, I judge everybody based on whether I'd have a beer with them. Like, I don't care who you pray to. I don't care what colour you are. If I'd have a beer with you, you're all right.
But that's part of our core values that's been torn apart a little bit because we've been divided now by our race, our religion, and our skin colour and our sexuality. And we're teaching our young people to judge others on that rather than the content of their character.
Yeah.
The best 3 words that was ever uttered in the 20th century that still hold true is content of character. They are still the best 3 words in a speech that I've ever heard because it says everything about everybody.
Yeah.
And if you've got a good content of character, and I'm linking that back to the cultural values we talked about earlier, and that's the one specific to Australia, and there'll be one specific to America and the UK. You link content, if you do that and link it back to that, then you're going to be a successful society. You're going to say, we're actually going to self-regulate. We're telling you that this is not good. And we're going to actually regulate you out of being a public figure, or we're going to tell you that you need to apologise. I don't care if you're part Indian and you're a lesbian. You're going to apologise because you're a role model and you're a public figure. So you see, It's about your content of character.
Yeah.
It's not about whether you feel victimized or whether you think you deserve something because of your skin color. It's got nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
Those 3 words for me really lift us up.
I think a lot of it's going to go away once people stop getting butthurt over dumb shit.
Stop being offended, everybody. You know what?
Like,
You're not going to agree with everything I say today, and you can write in and you can be really... It's like, I'll go, okay, that's good. And I'll still go out. You know, I've got a really close girlfriend who's a Torres Strait Islander, and I remember a few years ago, she sat with me and a whole bunch of friends. She's like, oh, Mel, I don't agree with anything you're saying about Black Lives Matter. I said, well, let's talk about it. And everyone's like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
You could hear a pin drop at the table. It was about 15 people. And they were like, oh, no. Because guess what? No one wants to talk about it.
Yeah.
We've lost the ability to debate and to have a sound, reasonable conversation with somebody else because we're so scared of speaking out. We're so scared of being against the narrative, or we're, scared of actually talking to a Torres Strait Islander. Oh, my God, because she's the protect. It's like, no, I'm not. Just talk to me.
Yeah, but they're scared of asking questions.
Well, we
like,
debated.
why not find out more?
We debated in front of everyone, and they were all sitting there like they were in the middle of a car crash, and we were debating respectfully. We were listening to each other. We were not agreeing on everything, and then we would re-explain what we were talking about. In the end, we realised in front of everybody else that we actually agreed on 90% of the topic that we were discussing. It was probably just that 5-10% that we will always disagree on.
Yeah.
She's still a very close friend of mine. I love her to bits, actually. She's one of the most highly intelligent people I know.
Yeah.
And if you're listening, hello, babes. I know you know who I'm talking about. And it's that ability for us to agree to disagree respectfully, but both of us moved. I moved to her direction and she moved to my direction. We're both better people for it, and we're both still friends, and we both get so much out of the friendship because we weren't afraid to express our opinions to each other and have the debate.
Yeah.
And everybody else around us, I mean, honestly, you should have seen their faces. In fact, I kind of kept going just because I wanted to.
Well, it's always fun having an audience.
I know, I wanted everyone to kind of understand, well, listen, this is a good example of what we should be doing more of in our society.
Yeah.
We need to talk about this. We need to talk about Aboriginals. Let's talk about how much money they get every year. Why can't we talk about that?
Well, it all started going to shit when they got rid of a poo off The Simpsons. Like, I want to know why you can't have an open and fun conversation. I would love to sit down with what was Apu? Was he an Indian?
Yeah, he was Indian.
Yeah.
Wasn't it the 7-Eleven or something he had?
The Quickie Mart.
Oh, Quickie Mart.
I want to sit down with someone and go, all right, tell me about this elephant, and have an actual conversation, because I don't get it. Like, but I understand some base, kind of like surface level stuff, but I don't know anything about it. I understand Christianity and I understand a little bit more about Buddhism and bits and pieces like that. But I'm like, I love having conversations, and it's like, I don't understand why people are so freaked out about asking a question.
But you just said to me before, oh, look, can I just play the devil's advocate for a moment? I'm thinking, okay, well, you're going to actually counter what I've just said, because you're saying overtly, I'm going to be the devil's advocate. I want to actually say to you something different to what you're saying. We're not just here to agree. We're here to have a conversation. I'm like,
yeah,
boom, bring it on. You're being the devil's advocate. Put your case forward. I want to hear it. I was like, this is fantastic, because I want to hear you not just agreeing with me today. You can say to me, well, hold on a minute, Melinda. I'm not sure I agree with everything you're saying. That's how we grow.
Sometimes it's just about finding more information too, because it might not be like, oh, I don't agree. It's like, okay, that sounds fair, but what about this?
Yeah.
Just because you want to.
Absolutely.
But then I think that want to know more has been overshadowed by the fear of repercussions.
Absolutely. And people, please, 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 take it up to your friend. Say to them, well, listen, hey, they're still going to be your friend at the end of the day. And by the way, if they're not.
Well, they weren't your friend in the first place.
They were never your friend, were
yeah,
they?
I agree.
At the end of the day, please, let's do this. Let's do it together, because in front of everybody, people came up to me later and went, that was great. I listened to what you guys were talking about.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that this, that, and this and that. And we thought, I said, well, look, I may not be right, but I wanted to share my opinion. And this person wanted to share her opinion. And it was a brilliant conversation because she's a mature adult, highly intelligent, much smarter than me, by the way. And I learned something as well. And that's isn't that how we move? We progress, we learn, we're learning,
That's also the prime example of what I was saying before about your followers.
Yeah.
You know, it's like not everybody at that table, you had 15, right, or thereabouts, 2 were going to have that conversation.
Yeah.
But to the benefit of the other 13.
I think so.
Like that's...
I think it was.
The being a follower does not mean anything negative. It's like there are people that love their job. They go to work every day. They just get a lot of fulfillment out of it, and that's just what they do. Then you got people like me who just don't like fucking being told what to do. I'm a shit employee. I'm fully aware.
Yeah.
So we need the yin and yang in a relationship. We need the yin and yang in culture.
Yeah.
We need all that. But that's a prime example of like you've got people that wouldn't have had that, and when it started, were a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But to the benefit of the fact that you two were willing to do it.
Yeah.
Everybody else, appreciated it afterwards.
But everyone still needs a voice. Even the follower,
yes.
I mean, we still need people to come out and have an opinion. I mean, I value absolutely every single person's opinion.
Yeah.
Look, I try not to block people on my X feed. I try really, really hard because I always say to myself, even when people are rabid nutcases, they still, if they're on my feed and they're passionate, and even if they hate me and they disagree with me, I rarely block them. I mean, I've had to block some absolute really...
Nutters?
Well, there's the abusive nutters.
Yeah.
And the stalkers, and there's a few kind of crazy people.
Yeah.
And I've had to block a few of those. I mean, you use the C word on my feed. It's like, look, guys, I try to keep it a little bit classier than that. You're out. You're out. Don't use the C word. Otherwise, you're out. I don't care if you call it, you can call it to anybody, but you're out. There's a couple of other little rules I follow, but I try not to block the people that disagree with me because you need to see it. Everyone needs to see the other side of the story and the opinion so you can balance it up. We are losing the ability. We are losing the ability to teach children how to see and critically think on both sides of the fence. You mentioned it earlier in our discussion. You've got to be able to look at both sides, marry it up, weigh it up, and then make a call.
Yep.
Because if you don't, and you don't participate in politics and Australian society, and you don't actually start to critically think a little bit further, then what's going to happen is you're going to get more of what we've got now, and we're not doing so well.
No.
You've got to speak up, and you've got to go, I'm shy and I don't like it and everything, but hey, my voice matters. My voice absolutely matters. Everyone's voice matters. That's my key message every day. I started out this conversation saying it. It doesn't matter whether it's about relationships or men and women and how women are traveling, how girls are traveling, the woke narrative, the revolution that we need, our politicians, the tax, the wastage, all of that stuff we've talked about today. Grab a hold of it and have an opinion. Have it.
I definitely think everybody should have an opinion and is entitled to one and should have one, and if they don't have one, should find out more and all that sort of stuff. I think there's just the difference is that there's people that will have the opinion and do whatever they do with their lives, and then there's other people that will have an opinion and jump on the top of a building and scream it out and jam it down your throat.
Yeah, that's true too. Obviously we don't need the look, it's not an opinion if you're just calling someone a name. And in my bio, I just say, if you're abusive, you've just lost the argument.
Yeah.
You've lost all of your voice. You've lost everything. As soon as you call someone a name, as soon as you go below the belt and you're abusive, you call someone a name, you're just disgusting. It's like, well, now you've lost any kind of credibility and opinion that you have.
Absolutely.
You've lost your voice. I'm not listening to you. Maybe you might have had something valid to say, but at the moment, you're gone.
Yeah.
As soon as you're abusive, as soon as you behave poorly, as soon as you're an idiot, you're out. Your opinion doesn't count anymore.
Yeah, but it's also responding to what was said, not what you think it means.
Yeah.
Like we said before with, if I call you a dickhead, just because I don't know, what's someone who's not white, let's just be generic.
Yeah.
If I call you a dickhead, well, and
That's 'cause you're a
you
dickhead.
can't turn around and go, oh, you know, that's
a
racist because
racist.
I'm such and such.
No, actually,
I just think you're a dickhead.
You think about what I'm saying here. See what you've just done here and see what you've just said.
Yeah.
That makes you a dickhead.
Yeah.
It makes you a twat. It makes you an elitist twat. It makes you, you are being ridiculous.
And all of
And if
those
you
things
can't-
have nothing to do with where you're from.
And guess what? Your skin color has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, exactly.
And your religion has nothing to do with it. You're just a dickhead. And if you behave like a dickhead and you get called a dickhead, then, well, that's just too bad.
And it's also that culture or race or religion or gender or whatever can't latch onto that and go, this person hates that person because of this. No, it's got nothing to do with you,
because
and
look
it's
at-
not got nothing to do with that part of him.
That's right.
He, in that moment, was a dickhead.
And he was behaving poorly. So I'm checking behavior. I'm not checking the identity.
Exactly.
It's all about behavior. Our cultural value system in this country and in Western society is about behavior.
Yep.
And Tucker Carlson makes a really good point when he goes, our polite obedience has allowed, and our polite tolerance has allowed all of these people to come in and undermine, this kind of core values that we built up that we think are important.
Yeah.
And one of them is to behave decently to your fellow human.
Yeah.
And, when you're calling people ridiculous names, so you're behaving badly and you get your get out of jail free card because you happen to be part of the woke totem pole victim criteria, then all of a sudden people who are in that Western society are now starting, as the Great Awakening is happening, going, you know what, I'm actually sick of this bullshit. You're just a dickhead. Let's just face it. And there's no argument.
Yeah.
And here's the evidence. It's right here in front of you.
That's it.
And it's got nothing to do with anything. We've been politely tolerant and politely obedient to all your bullshit to date. And guess what? Now we're actually going to come out and tell you.
Yeah.
We're not going to put up with this anymore.
Yeah.
You are a dickhead. You are the person that's behaving poorly. And for a functional society and for a safe society and for a society of freedom of speech and all the other great stuff that comes with it, that is bullshit. We're not going to tolerate it anymore.
Yeah,
So you
and I
either
think-
like
yeah.
it or you piss off.
Yeah.
And
I
this is
think
where,
we're coming out the other side of it, though.
well, hopefully. But as I said, I think America is.
Well, we tend to follow America.
I'd like to know what's your estimate on how long this is going to take Australia to kind of...
I said to Pauline the other day, I think we are, in the past, we have typically been about 10 years behind them. She seems to think it's about 5. But everything's getting, with the internet, with technology, with
It's
the sharing
faster.
of information, the gap is getting shorter. But
Let's hope it's a lot shorter than...
look, it could be a lot quicker than that. But we are also limited by, the powers that we have towards our government.
Well, that's right. And
all that as well.
this is where we sort of started our discussion today. We are limited by who we have options for in the next election, and we have to understand the people about the processes and the systems that we're locked into and whether we feel that this is going to be adequate for us in the future.
Well, at the moment, I think it's Trump's talking about buying. What's he
Which
talking
country
about?
this week?
Yeah, I don't know. It might be.
Canada?
Yeah, Canada.
Oh, Canada this
Yeah,
week.
I think it's Canada, and they're just gonna change it to America, but they're gonna keep the states because they're not gonna make Canada a state. They're gonna keep the states they've got.
Yeah.
Like if we get in too much more debt, he might be knocking on our door. Well, we're already USA. We are already the United States of Australia. So won't be that much of a change.
Look, I mean, if you were to say this to me 10 years ago, I would have gone, what? That's absolutely horrendous. We can't do that. And now I'm looking at the state of where we're at, and I go,
I think
we
we'll
can do worse.
I think we'll bounce back. I think the Australian people are, they've had the wool over their eyes for a little bit. We're now recovering, in the process of recovering from it. I think we'll bounce back out of it, but it's a process. And
Well, I hope you're right, and I really want to be positive, and I'm always an optimistic person. So for me, when you say that, I think to myself, that's true, because I've mentioned today even the Great Awakening, people are starting to speak out. We've had a couple of wins You know, we batted away the misinformation bill, which was going to be really terrible for us. We batted away the voice, which was a race-based change to the Constitution that no one could explain, would have been a disaster for the country. We're batting things away now, and I think these are positive steps. We do have some wins, and I don't think Anthony Albanese will be Prime Minister much longer, so that's also a win. I'm not saying Peter Dutton's the answer, but he's better. He's better than what we have, and we only have that choice at the moment. So, you know, I'm happy to concede that we're going to go in the right direction.
Well, I'd back whoever's going to stop giving away our fucking land and stopping us from bloody being able to drive on beaches and four-wheel drive parks getting shut down.
I'll tell you a person who was also very, very knowledgeable on that, and I mentioned his name earlier, and his name is Jim Wilmot. If you get a chance to follow him on X, he is going to be a Senate candidate for the Libertarian Party. He used to head Property Rights Australia.
Okay.
Absolutely amazing in terms of his knowledge on your rights and property rights and what's actually going on in that space. And he can talk to you about regional towns that have been impacted. He can talk about access to national parks. I actually turned up to the Mount Warning demonstration where a bunch of people with the Aboriginal, the true full-blood Aboriginal elders of that area actually walked with us. Oh, well, not me, but I couldn't make the walk, but I was down for the rally up the top of Mount Warning.
Right.
And it was an absolutely brilliant day. And when you actually sit and listen to what full-blood Aboriginals, and I say full-blood because it's really, really important that they are the people that they are the people in Australia that are really important to our cultural heritage. It's actually these people. He calls this man called other Aboriginal people that were interfering in the access for white people and for anybody else to access our national park and Mount Warning in that area. He called them lattes.
Lattes?
Yeah.
Fuck. Right, okay.
Because, and he couldn't stand them because he said they live over here, they're not even part of our local community, and they butt in when they shouldn't. They're seeking power, they're seeking money, they seek a lot of other stuff that the full-blood Aboriginals are not interested in. And when you actually start listening to people, and that's the really key here too, we need to actually listen to the people on the ground in communities rather than just splashing money around at these, as I said, platitude politics around Aboriginal people. And that day was insightful and it was brilliant. And they walked to the top, they talked at the top, they came to the bottom, they made speeches, and he explained so much about the local area, the lies that have been told by the lattes, the misinformation. That
word's never coming out of my mouth again. That's I can
I
appreciate
think
that
it was either cappuccino or latte. I'm pretty sure it was latte.
I can appreciate
I didn't say it, he said
I
that.
can appreciate your relaying what was said, but
Yeah, I
fuck.
know. Well, but hey, why? Look, he's just. It's his truth. It's his.
But he can say that.
Well, of course he can, because it's his. He is being represented by people that don't represent him.
Yeah, and that would suck.
And the government are listening to people that don't represent his community, his local community, the people that have been in the region forever. And he wants Mount Warning to be for everybody. He wants to share. They are a spiritual, the full blood's spiritual. They want to share with white people. They believe the land is for everyone. They don't believe in land ownership. Like, you just listen. In Australia, once you start listening to that and you look at where the money's going and you look at what's going on, I mean, it's a travesty. So at the end of the day, we as a nation have a responsibility to get these wins on the table. We need to get these wins. We're getting them. We're waking up, and we're all a part of that. And if it's attending a little rally at your local national park to get into that and access that, go.
Yeah,
It made a difference. Everyone's walking up Mount Warning now, I believe. Everyone's just like, oh, well, whatever.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is stopping the segregation. It's like, okay, black, white, purple, yellow,
It's
orange.
disgusting.
It's like, if you're Australian, you're Australian.
It's disgusting.
That's it. Yeah.
And we all, hello, I pay tax if I want to go into that national park, babe. I mean, otherwise, I'm happy for you to give me a refund. If you're going to stop me from going to places in my own country, then you give me a refund.
Let's do what Ruthie does and paint everything green and disappear.
Yeah. But at the end of the day...
You don't know who that is, do you?
No.
No. John Ruthie is an Australian icon for the four-wheel driving industry.
Okay, yeah. I should know who he is then.
He was part of Four-Wheel Drive Monthly, and he used to write for Live to Ride, and then he was Four-Wheel Drive Action, and then they went out and did their own thing. But his big thing was Unlock Australia, and he's got a big thing of he paints everything green so that he disappears in Australia. He's like, we own it. Why am I fucking paying for it? That's his old 40 Series Land Cruiser that he had.
Yeah.
Went all around Australia. He's now down in the museum. But his big thing was Unlock Australia, because he was like, it's our land.
It is our land, but it's everyone's land.
Yeah.
And if you talk to the Aboriginal people who belong to like the full bloods, and you talk to some of the local communities, they agree.
Yeah.
They agree. Unless they've been brainwashed to tell people to go away, and they'll give you money, and there's reparations and pay the rent and all of that. There's a little bit of brainwashing that's gone around that, and I'm going to admit that, and I understand it. But for the most part, it's not that. And the thing about Australia is that it's the taxpayers that are paying the wages for everyone to lock us down, to lock us away, to lock us out of our national parks, to do the COVID stuff, to wipe the ecosystem clean with all of the renewable energy bullshit. We're actually, as taxpayers, paying for that. We're paying for bad outcomes. So guess what? If we don't want it, we're not paying for it anymore. You don't get to have our money anymore. You don't get to have anything. And if you don't let me go into that national park, well then, hey, listen, I'm going to calculate how much tax it costs me to maintain that national park and to employ those rangers and to do that for everyone over Australia. And then I'll just pro rata that to everyone, and you just give everyone a refund.
You know what should happen is it's like in an election. When they're going to do something in Australia, it should go to an Australian vote.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that be so much simpler to go, instead of just these guys that are all in each other's pockets talking shit behind closed door deals, go, we're going to do something like solar farms.
Oh, do you like that, Australia? Are you into that?
Yeah, and if we're not, then it doesn't happen.
Exactly. But that should have absolutely happened in May last year for the digital ID bill. That should have absolutely happened. That should have gone to the people. That will be one of the biggest changes and have the biggest impacts on this country and our individual freedoms and rights that in our history, and yet they just went snuck it through. I actually asked a few people, oh yeah, what happened to what did that? I didn't even know. No, because you wouldn't. How would you know?
I was going to say, I don't know that I've even heard that. What is that? What is it?
Well, there you go.
Oh, we're gonna get into a whole nother realm of stuff. How long have we been going for? We're gonna be close to 3 hours. It's been a minute. I think we 2 hours 50. There you go.
Wow. Oh gosh, it feels like about an hour. I thought we'd been going for about an hour.
It'll be a little bit of an edit because I was dicking around with the cameras when we first started, but it'll be around there. But
is anyone still listening? Put your hands up.
Well,
right. Quick, type it in.
I think we're gonna have to get you to come back at some point because this could just keep going.
I know, it's been so much fun today. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, I've got a present for you.
You do?
Yes, I've got you my book. I've got to give you my book.
Oh, you do? Yes.
With the signs, it's this one here. I think.
Oh, you've signed
it, and I said, "Thank you for everything that you do. You're an amazing person." And that's my gift. Thank you so much for having me on the show. You can't say that. That's my book and. MelindaRiches.com if you want to buy one.
There you go. So give people all your socials and stuff while we're wrapping up.
Oh, okay. X is at Good Food Girl. Oh, look, there I am.
Oh, there we go. Here's one we prepared earlier.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I don't look like that on camera today. I've had a really, really long day, so I don't look like my photo today. But yeah, at Good Food Gal, I'd love you to follow me. And I'm not very good at plugging my book because I do have a day job. I just did this as a hobby. But my book is You Can't Say That. And that's it. Yes, right there.
There we go. Oh,
And
it's on the screen. There we go.
It was I'm not an author. Well, I am now technically, but at the time I wasn't an author, and it took a little bit to pull together. So
You don't dot your I's.
no, I didn't. I rushed that. I rushed that one a little bit. I wanted to.
I can tell. Have you done this as an audiobook yet?
I did do it as an audio.
Did you do your own
book.
voice or?
I did my own voice. Please don't talk to me about that experience. It was, thank God for the person that did it with me, because she got me through it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to get through it.
Really?
No,
Well, just
she
reading
was
your own book.
amazing. I read my own book, and I had to. And well, let me just tell you, for any of you authors out there that are going to read your own book, they pull you up when you just do a tiny little mistake, and it's like, stop, go back. Start from here. Oh my God.
Oh, because it's got to be word perfect.
Oh my God. I was really crap at it.
Why would it fucking matter? Because if they're not going to be listening to you and reading along at the same time. If you miss a word, they won't know.
No, it was word perfect. Yeah.
But good grief.
I know. It was hard. Please download my audiobook just so I can make that worthwhile.
If I wrote a book and was doing my own audio version, it would be at least 10% different.
No.
Because I'd be like, oh, I forgot that. I'm just going to add that in. Nobody will know.
No. Nope.
All right.
No, they were very professional, and they got me to perform.
Very cool. Well, you're the first author we've had on.
Oh, yeah.
And the second lady.
The second
lady. Yes, Pauline Hanson and you.
Oh, well, I'm really glad we got to talk about men and women then.
There you go.
We got to talk a bit more about that later.
Yeah, look, I think I could talk to you about some of those topics for ages. There's a heap of there's so much stuff to unpack, but I think we'll wrap this one up because it's getting late.
I didn't realise the time. I hope everyone's stayed the course. Thank you if you have.
Well, look, you know what? If they haven't, well, you know what? I'm sure they'll see the shorts at some point. So you're on Twitter, and what was your website?
MelindaRichards.com, just my name.com. Yeah, and it's the best place to buy the book. And look, I will say people are liking it. I was very, very worried when I first launched the book. I was putting myself out there. I was very nervous, horrified, to be frank. But it's all very well to put your opinion out on social media, but when you write a book and you've got people paying money to actually read it. But look, it's got really good reviews and people like it. I can say that honestly. People really do like it. So
that's good.
because it's conversational, it's an easy read. I'm not a complicated person. So it just helps you say, I agree with this. So guess what? I'm going to come out and I'm going to start talking about some of this stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
I like it. Well, thank you very much for coming down. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Yes, it's been so much fun. Thank you.
And we'll have to get you back at some point. I think there's a lot more there to unpack. So, but for now,
yes,
we'll let you get home. I know you got a bit of a drive, so
I'm going back to the Gold Coast. So
there you go.
Back to the Goldie. It's the right time of night to drive because it's not that horrendous traffic.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons we do it the time we do it, so that everybody's day is done, and then by the time we're finished, it's a bit crazy.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So
very cool. All right, well, thanks again.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
Great. Thanks, Ben.
Bye, everybody.